What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a shout out to all of the people who do support me on Patreon. So massive shout out to Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Felix Hung, Fireball X, Godrockin, Jeranism, Kirsten Smith, Life is Short, Matt, Michael, Page Love, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sam Hine, Sweet Equity, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com and Tina Baker. Massive shout out to all of you for your support on Patreon. Now we have actually got a Discord and Google Plus hangout with a few people in both. Have we got anybody in Discord? Yeah, we've got a few people in Discord. Hello, one and all.
Hello and happy birthday.
It was yesterday, but thank you. Same day, Sheeps and Neeps died. Wonderful.
Nathan, I've got a suggestion.
Go ahead.
I think that for housekeeping today, rather than ask the usual questions, just to mix it up, I think we should call it Mix It Up Monday and do it on a Monday. I think we should adopt the housekeeping questions that Tweedledee and Tweedledum were presenting in Ranties the other night and basically address them, just because it's a bit samey, and I think that a little bit of variety for these morons that claim that there's things that we can't answer. I think we should address their claims of what they say we can't answer.
Okay. Maybe in a week's time, if you want to do it on this day for the sake of argument, today being Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
Well, I was going to suggest perhaps mix it up Monday and we'll do it the opposite way around. What do you think?
On Monday, yeah. But before we do, because when we go live, the audience may not know what's being talked about. So I've already discussed this with Ranty, actually, like minds and all that. What we were going to do is, towards the end of this show or in the after show, we'll just go through them first. In other words, rather than Ranty's idea was open your show with their questions. But well, no, I don't want to distract from the housekeeping questions. Should just still be asked. If you ask me, that's my opinion. There are questions now. Yeah, it's amusing to go through their questions, and it might be the case that going forward on a Monday we do exactly what you suggested. But I think we should at least together look at them and go through them. If that's good by you, I've already gone through them with Ranty, and I'm sure you have as well.
No, I haven't actually. This is a totally random coincidence.
Oh, it took about. I hadn't seen them, and then Ranty was like, "Have you been through their housekeeping questions yet?" And I was like, "No, let's have a look at them together then." So we did that this morning, and it literally took about 2 minutes to pull them apart. It really wasn't a very arduous task.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think that we should use their housekeeping, given that they've not addressed our housekeeping issues. We should address theirs and just laugh at them.
Yeah. Most of their housekeeping questions are their lack of appreciation for their own formulation of a logical fallacy. So, for instance, they're asking for explanations about positions of the sun and horizon, and you're like, what? These apparent positions, these not actual positions. My God, don't they keep up with the flat Earth debate?
No, they ignore it. They know exactly what's going on, but they ignore it.
Oh, it's
and
just,
they preach to their own audience.
Head in the sand.
Yeah, preach to their own audience.
Well, as I say, it's a useful opportunity to point out those logical fallacies, where they lie, how they've been formulated, and how their subsequent questions are nonsense as a result. That's useful. But yeah, I think if you don't mind, if we can wait till sort of the end of this show and we'll go through it again, if they come up naturally, they may be on the live show, but I'd ideally like to just do it. I'd do it now, but we've only got about 10 minutes before the live show starts. And I want Ranty here, and ideally Quantum Eraser as well. But definitely Ranty at the bare minimum.
Well, what we should do then is I think we should do it on Monday, and we'll call it Mix It Up Monday. Today we'll do the housekeeping questions, but in reverse.
Okay, that's good by me. Yeah, absolutely fine.
Evidence of
Okay, I'm going to go and grab a coffee. Can you? If I go in the kitchen, will there be immediate dead air?
no. What I'll do is I'll ask the people that are in now. You go to the kitchen and do what you need to do. 10th man. Oh no, Flatzoid, are you there? Flatzoid.
Yeah, I'm here.
So have you seen the Ball Earthers housekeeping questions?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
The new ones.
No, the ballers have got their housekeeping questions.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's really good because it's like this is what their perspective is for the problems with flat Earth, right? And I can accept that there are some issues with flat Earth, but the points that they
Let
bring
me
up
guess some of them.
that I have problems with. So it's worth going over anyway. And we've got like 12 minutes before we start the next show. I'm going to
guess
suggest
some of them.
Yeah, pardon?
I said I want to guess some of them.
No, let's go with one of them that they've given, and let's just discuss it from our perspective, whether or not it's a strong point. Number 5 on their list reads: evidence of a dome and a lack of pressure gradient. So it's like that's their point there. That's their housekeeping, and I'm like, really? Evidence of a dome, right? Well, we have gas pressure. It's in the definition for gas pressure. It's pressure comes from like the collisions of the particles against the walls of its container. That's where pressure. That's the cause of gas pressure. The container, and we have gas pressure. We're told, so we must be contained. That is evidence of some kind of containment. May not be a dome, maybe some kind of layer of ice or whatever. But that is the evidence of some kind of structure that's containing us, because we couldn't have gas pressure otherwise. And I don't know why they're asking that. They know that answer, but anyway, they ignore it. And then it says a lack of a pressure gradient.
What happened to that conversation that I think you guys had? I can't remember who it was, where it was talking about how there's no empirical evidence of particles or any kind of pressure at all. I can't remember who it was, but it was between Quantum Eraser and I think Zanuck. How did that?
I think
turn
that
out?
originated from Right the Hand, and as far as I'm aware, it's an outstanding issue between Quantum Eraser and Right the Hand. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on it, but I think Right the Hand's position is nobody's ever seen an atom. Therefore, how can you call it a particle? John's position is there's a guy that won a Nobel Prize for proving that it was a particle. But
okay,
there's
what
a
kind of
legitimate
instrument
question,
would
because
you
I don't know what the
need
Nobel
to
Prize. I don't know what the
see
prize was
an
for.
atom?
Say that again.
What kind of instrument would you need to see an atom? Because I feel like if there's an instrument, it could be, I don't know if it could be proven, but at least you could observe something that maybe has the characteristics of what we call an atom.
There's two perspectives. The first perspective is, do you accept that seeing an atom is required in the first place? And if you don't accept that, or do accept that, then the next question is, do we need to go down to the quantum level to prove that atoms exist? Or do we assume that they exist? And is that okay? And if it is okay, or isn't okay, how do you prove that atoms do or don't exist? Because we are made of stuff, and it does make sense that we're made of molecules. But how far? I mean, are we looking for something that doesn't exist, or are we? I don't know. I don't. The answer to your original statement or original question is I don't know what the conclusion of it was.
Okay, great. I was just wondering, because that's definitely something I want to investigate. Because I feel like the molecular or biochemistry is, I feel like maybe there is some assumptions underlying it, but they're kind of like the predictions match up with them, so people just accept it. And maybe there isn't a way to prove whether or not particles exist. I'm not sure, but maybe you can only observe them and try and make predictions from them, because we can't go down to that level and be with the molecules and physically be around them. So all we can do is use like, you know, electron microscopes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's an interesting topic though.
Yeah. I don't know how strong the quantum mechanic arguments are, because it does seem to be talking about stuff that nobody can really prove. But I don't like saying it that way because John just goes mad.
Well, I think the next ball bust is on particles, isn't it?
What'd you say?
I think the next live ball busters is on particles.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I hear a lot of that quantum stuff, and I think maybe I'm not gonna say John is because I don't know him, but I feel like there's a little bit of indoctrination there, and I feel like he's a little defensive because of like how much he's learned and like how much he's believed over the years about quantum mechanics. But I mean, I think there's probably some truth there, but there's also a lot of like religious stuff that comes from that quantum mechanics, like stuff on those, you know, like scientific documentaries and stuff where they're like, ooh, the quantum world acts this way, so the universe is a simulation and stuff like that. So it kind of gets a little iffy for me after a while. I totally think John is legit, but I feel like everyone has some type of assumptions that maybe they aren't like caught up with yet, and maybe they're like skeletons in the closet. So I feel like there's a lot of that, even with, you know, flat earthers and just everyone. So that was just kind of a point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, sorry, I was saying, no one. Sorry, sleeping. So that fifth question was it? We don't have any evidence of gradient pressure.
Yeah, that's a straw man. I think a lot of these are gonna be just straw mans.
I even had a video tackling gradient pressure on my channel, so I don't know where they fall for that.
Well, didn't what's his name, Good Times for All, demonstrate pressure gradient?
I think he did, yes.
Yeah, so
But I think we should take their lists and go through it on a live show and see if we can tear it away one for one.
well, they're all gonna be misrepresentations.
I feel like the dome like isn't even really a claim made. Like maybe it's implied by the container, by container needing, you know, by gas pressure needing a container. But I feel like that's not the claim that there is a dome. So I feel like that's why it's a straw man. Like when someone tries to
people are split on
explain
this.
something
like,
with
people like
gravity,
Nathan will say he doesn't know what the sky is, but
right?
Others,
and that's the thing is, it's like people try to explain something with gravity, and then you're like, okay, please demonstrate that. If we were saying there's a dome, then that would need like proof and explanation. But no one's saying that really, except for, you know, some people. But we're not.
No, some people say it.
Like
Christians say it.
Yeah,
what'd you say?
Like me, I believe there's a dome, but I'm not going to make a claim that there is one. I mean, there's not enough, how can I say, scientific evidence to prove it. So, in other words, it would just stay as a belief.
Yeah, I feel like as long as someone admits that whatever it is a belief, that it's just totally fine. It's like, okay, you believe that. That's okay. I feel like, but if someone's trying to just straw man you, that's just ridiculous.
Well, that's what they do. That's what I've noticed anyways. They try to lump us all together.
Maybe when we go through their housekeeping questions, we'll just have to ask that question of the panel members, i.e., who actually believes this for it to be a valid argument against any of us here now. Because as you say, it might be the case that someone says, yeah, I overtly state there's a dome. In which case, fine, well, then maybe you want to answer this question then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the problem. Everybody thinks every flat earther speaks for everyone. In the meantime, we all got our own opinion.
Right. There is a certain level of that kind of. I've got to be careful what I say here, but in our quote unquote community, there are plenty of people that are looking for leadership and question the perceived leadership that is in place already. It's like, what are you talking about? We're just discussing the nature of reality. We're not leading anything. If people come to us and see the information, that's great, and that goes for everybody. Not the Eric DeBays, the Jaronisms, the Mark Sargents. They're all in the same boat in that regard. They're passing on the information from a YouTube point of view. They're just making YouTube videos, right?
Yeah, we're all trying every day to figure out what reality is. It's simple.
But that's wonderful for me. And if people share in that journey, that's fine. But, some assigned leader to a non-entity that is called Flat Earth to me is just preposterous. But there we go. Some people perceive it in that manner.
Yeah, people usually say we're little Nathans.
They live on what?
I say people are usually assuming that we are little Nathans.
Yeah, I see that sometimes in the chat when somebody parrots a good argument that's been heard on this show. It's like, well, that's just a good argument. Do you have a rebuttal?
They say we're lining your pockets.
Yeah, well, good. Smash the super chat. But yeah, the argument is really all that matters, and often it's not actually a rebuttal to that argument. Yeah, in other words. Plus, that's a what's the fallacy called? Genetic fallacy. Because it's come from this person, it makes it a poor argument. No, it doesn't. It makes no difference who it's come from. That's a genetic fallacy.
I missed the first part of the talk, but I caught the last part. But I think that was Flatzoid. I do believe the container is what Genesis is talking about. But at the same time, I can't go up there to do a scientific method test on it. So I can't say
To be
what
honest
it's made out of.
To be honest with you, the firmament to me, all the stars seem to be the firmament, what they're describing.
Well, it says that on the second day, the biblical record, the container was made, which is called the firmament for me. And then on the fourth day, the sun, moon, and stars were put inside the firmament. So they can't be the stars from the biblical point of view. But that is
when you
a
say
belief.
inside, they could be stuck on the inside with sticky tape kind of thing, and they are the firmament. All right, technically they're on the inside, but they are still the firmament.
Yeah, but they're moving. They're moving. And if they're stuck, then the whole firmament's moving rather than the stars, moon, and...
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Spurs Chemo, Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Ranty Flat Earth, Flatzoid, Chocolate Sane, and Arwin in Google. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
The panels straight off the start. What's going on?
Who's rustling?
Ranty's
Ranty.
eating chips.
That was my way of saying hello.
Who got
Oh,
chips?
that's Ranty's version of a decorator's hello, is it?
It's always ranty.
Bloody hellfire. So we're also joined by quite a few people in Discord, so actually say your names because they're too small for me to read, but very warm welcome to all of you in Discord.
Nathan, I've got a suggestion for Mondays.
Go ahead.
I think we need to mix it up a little bit because although the housekeeping questions are really like the epicenter of the earthquake that we're causing, the housekeeping questions are the epicenter of that earthquake. I think we need to mix it up a little bit on a Monday. Ranty did a really good show with Dumpus and a couple of other morons, and in it they presented their own version of housekeeping questions. And I think just for shits and giggles, we should do it on a Monday and laugh at the housekeeping questions because just for a bit of variety, right? It's spice of life.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm hoping, I discussed this with Ranty earlier, once QE gets out of bed and hopefully joins us, I'm hoping that it might be in this live show, maybe in the after show, we shall see how it goes time-wise. But we actually go through and dissect the questions. And then, like you say, as a parody on a Mixing Up Monday, we'll ask those questions as part of our housekeeping just to take the piss. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. What I can do,
Wake him up.
I can quickly put them on show for you guys if you want to have a quick look, and I'll just leave it on.
No, it's not Mix It Up Monday. It's Wednesday, Burke.
Yeah. Like I say, Ranty, if you can just save it till we'll go through them later, potentially on the after show. I'll plug my own after show actually. So in the link below this video, there's a link to Nathan Oakley channel. If you're not already subscribed, go and subscribe to Nathan Oakley. It's where I publish the uncut and after shows that come before and after the live shows. So if you want to see the continuation of these conversations when referencing the after show, then that's where you're going to see it. So go and check out Nathan Oakley channel, subscribe today.
Yeah, I was thinking just put it up for the audience. We can just talk normally, but just have it on in the background just for a couple of minutes, and the audience can get to see the questions, and then they'll have to tune into the after show to listen to how our response is to these.
That's a good idea.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Oh, you want to do it right now, though?
I'm all for that.
Okay, I've put you up anyway. You're on.
There you go. So we'll just leave them up for a minute, and we'll just do our housekeeping questions. But this is global.
Good idea. I see, and now that makes a lot of sense. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever.
None.
Afraid not.
Any evidence of the R value?
The Arabian on here.
Win.
No.
No, it's just assumed.
Rage win. I mean, Arwin.
Yeah, we'll come to that later. We'll come to that. Don't bully Arwin.
Stop picking on Arwin. You know he's sensitive.
No, just
Nah,
don't
not
pick on
that
him.
sensitive. I just have taste. You know, I do appreciate, for example, Nathan Oakley. He's one of my favorite trolls. That's actually funny.
Yeah,
Even
and
though
so
he's a troll.
CGI Ranty. I like CGI
Yeah,
Ranty.
CGI Ranty is just a regular follower. I really like him.
Yeah, I no longer make that association with CGI Ranty. So when I see CGI Ranty, it doesn't click that it's a sock of Ranty. Obviously, it's a sock of Ranty, but like you say, he's just a dude now, isn't he? It's just CGI Ranty. It's a different dude.
He's a sock account turned to a real boy.
He's actually a cool guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Except he's walking around with my face on his head.
Well, that's what I thought about it.
That, yeah.
It tweaked the other day in one of the chats, and I thought, yeah, but he's actually got Ranty's icon, hasn't he? He's an overt sock of Ranty's. It's not just like subtly.
It is funny because some of the soccer accounts have been really funny over. I remember that when we were going through the Isle of Man stuff, Tim joined with a soccer account called Tough to Trees right while we were arguing over a Tough to Trees account, and it was just perfectly timed. It's just good to have some of the humorous ones that are perfectly timed.
We had the hyena looming perspective.
Oh, slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I've not seen much of hyena recently. Is he still around?
I think so. I'm sure somebody mentioned that hyena was around somewhere at some point, but
Yeah, I keep seeing all these Rage Win and Vamp Win and all these other soccer accounts pop up. So he's got to be around, unless it's other people picking up the torch and doing it too. Because
I don't know. I think.
matter of fact, Arwen, you got a doppelganger on that shows up on Discord.
Oh, really?
And everybody's like, "Oh, is that the real Arwen?" I'm like, "No,
it's
Arwen
not.
doesn't like Discord."
The best one was
And the guy, yeah.
the best one was
I had to-
Winsidious. Has anyone seen that meme? Winsidious.
No.
It's
No, I haven't seen that.
The monster from the
What's that?
further. You know, the monster from the further in Insidious.
It's got Arwen's face.
Yeah, it's got Arwen's face with that red monster. Winsidious. Anyway, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, too much presupposing.
I saw somewhere that volcanoes, the lava isn't real. That's an interesting thing.
Lava's not real.
Have y'all seen? Have
I've
y'all
se-
seen that?
Yeah, Jaren did a
any
video about
lava
it 2
is
years ago.
CGI.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is faked. So some of the documentaries where they're claiming to climb down into these active volcanoes, they are CGI. You know, whether I'm pretty sure I can't remember it that well, but I'm going to stick my neck out and say that Jaren's pretty good at covering all bases in that regard. So he'd have been very specific about the footage he was pulling apart and not necessarily making any overt claims that volcanoes aren't real. That's just my guess. I can't remember. It was a couple of years ago, but typically that's Jaren's way.
I'm pretty sure there
I
are
wasn't-
definitely active volcanoes in Iceland and Hawaii and Japan, maybe. I don't know.
Right. I know they've been documented for thousands of years, but
Oh.
what I'm saying is that there I feel like there could be lava, but I'm not sure that there might be molten metal below the surface, but I don't think there's a core that it's like a fiery center or something like that. There might be like just kind of like temperature changes and then like combustion from igneous rock and stuff like that, but I don't know if there's like a core. That would be kind of interesting.
Pockets, and they're probably under pressure from the heat. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
would say
that makes sense to
more
me.
like a
I mean, it
phase
makes
change.
sense that at certain pressures, combustion of igneous rock would happen, maybe.
Well, just imagine just rock somehow and being heated up locally. If it would start to melt and all that, still being inside non-molten rock, yeah, there's going to be pressure. So even if it somehow would be locally created, then there's definitely going to be pressure, and all the results would coincide with what we know about volcanoes, how that happens. Doesn't mean it
Right.
has to.
Yeah,
This
right
lava has to
now
reach
I'm
all the
reading,
way down to the core, or that kind of nonsense.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading the Zetetic astronomy book, and he talks about some things I don't think you can prove, like have the great waters beneath. But I was just on the chapter about volcanoes and how like he thinks there are deposits that it's just igneous rocks or igneous things just kind of like combusting due to pressure, I think. But yeah, that was kind of my thing. Like, I feel like there's probably lava and lava exists, but I don't think there's a freaking core. Like, basically a world of lava under the surface.
Right. Can I mention something?
Go ahead, Ranty.
Sheeps and Neeps passed away. So, unfortunately, he lost his battle with cancer. There's a video out on P900 Cool Pixies channel. I did actually mention it in on my second account inside Arwings today, but they banned me. So I thought I would mention it here. But yeah, so Sheeps and Neeps passed away. There is a PayPal that's available to people to contribute towards his funeral. If you want, I can pop that up too, so that people can go over there and find it.
Yeah, we'll stick the link in. If you stick it in the side chat, I'll put it in the info in the live chat so that people can actually go to Sandra's video.
Oh right, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So just to let you know that he didn't make it. So
I think he was
Rest in
50,
peace,
53,
Sheep
54. Not very old. I always feel like someone dies before 60. That's a bit crap. Well, obviously it's crap when anyone dies, but you know what I mean. Like they haven't had a particularly good innings, if you know what I mean. Not long enough. Sad, very sad.
Right. It went pretty
Ooh,
quick.
what would be a fun conversation eventually is cannabis and cancer and how effective it is, or other things like that. I'm not trying to like cloud that event happening, but I've heard a lot of good things about like Rick Simpson, cannabis oils, and just raw cannabis juice in general. And I've done a lot of research into it.
Wasn't he trying to get funds together to get that? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Because I did hear from some time
I feel
ago.
like it should.
Listen,
I feel like it should be.
Listen,
a thing.
whilst I totally agree with you on the Rick Simpson oil, it's not on topic. It's not flat Earth related. Spurs is dying to say something to do with atmospheric pressure, and I'm wondering, should we stay on topic?
Okay.
We should. But
the gravity question, or any signs or evidence of gravity.
Yeah.
Anything like that, and then I'll be able to jump in.
To be honest, I'm just playing devil's advocate because, like, the Rick Simpson oil is a really legitimate conversation to have, but it's not flat Earth related. Let's keep it on topic and let's wait for the gravity question. Just because it is on topic, not that I don't agree with it.
What is related to that then? Like, what are the topics?
Well, it's semi-related. You're half right, Anthony, because he's a flat earther. He's died of cancer. We have discussed Rick Simpson oil and cannabis treatments on various different shows on this channel. It does get discussed. And it's just not housekeeping. So the whole idea of housekeeping, this has been a fairly laid back housekeeping, though, hasn't it? We've discussed various different things during the course of the last 15 minutes. So I'm not too fussed. I'd have stopped the conversation if I was. I'm not trying to stop you from stopping it either, Anthony. Though by the same token, I'd rather carry on with housekeeping. No offence. That said, it's still a sad day. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we've lost somebody in our community. Flat Earth being that community in quotes. So shout out to Sheeps and Neeps' family. So it's not a happy day in that regard.
Definitely, yeah.
Let me just say my piece on this. I didn't get on with Sheeps and Neeps at all, but I do feel sad that he's gone.
Hold on, Anthony. Sorry, Ferris Wolf, was it?
So yeah. I think it kind of does. I mean, y'all are talking about the whole. You can just call it a conspiracy, but if you don't think the medical industry is a part of that, it's just like one arm of this, control system. So I feel like it might be directly relevant. If you guys have talked about it in the past and like gone over it, I don't think it's relevant. But I was just saying, like, I feel like anything associated with that type of control system that they're trying to create, which goes into all facets of society, I feel like is directly relevant because, I feel like it directly is a part of it. But if you guys have already gone over it, that's fine. I don't really care.
No, fair enough. I mean, yeah, it's not something we shy away from. We've certainly discussed it with some of the members of IRM, and I've even had Joey Rocha on the show, who's a recovering cancer patient with pancreatic cancer, very, very horrible cancer, and is fully recovered. He's on the scene. He often goes around under his girlfriend's account, presumably just signs in and just gets on with it and starts chatting, even though it's Erin account as opposed to his. But there we go, Joey Rocha, and I think that show is called Flat Earth UK, or Flat Earth Pharmacy. But there we go. There's various different interviews I've done with people who have had that sort of treatment, and it has been discussed. But yeah, it's like I say, it's in relation to our cosmology. It's not directly linked, if I'm honest.
Okay, I concede to that. It's not direct, but I feel like it's kind of run down by the same people, in my opinion.
It's another arm of the grand deception. That's
exactly. It's another one of those, the giant octopus's arms. Yes. Tentacles.
Don't be offended that I stopped that conversation. Don't be offended that I stopped that conversation just because it was off topic. It wasn't intentional to offend. It was just because it's not really on topic.
Oh yeah, I know. I was just I was just making sure I said that.
It's fair enough. There's certain people in the scene that will shy away from that subject for whatever reason. It's controversial, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of have the same kind of viewpoint as you guys, but I can get way off topic because that's kind of how my brain works. But I'm glad y'all brought that up because I'll go off on so many tangents and it won't really be related to things. So I'm not offended.
Fair enough.
But I'm glad y'all are keeping things on track. It's good to have like a general structure.
But it is pertinent, and I've done this quite a few times. There's loads of different segues into this particular plug, but Haunted House has got an interview with Conspiracy Cats, and it's very telling because Conspiracy Cats is explaining how his sleepless nights aside and his general low mood aside, his perception of a deception. If we've been deceived in this regard, then it opens the floodgates to us being deceived in many regards. And that's kind of akin to what you're saying here. It's one arm, it's one head of the Hydra, however you want to call it. And you're right. That is very much the case. You open your eyes to a whole world of deception. That said, this gateway is further up the river than some of those deceptions, which is why they don't get covered in a huge way at great length on this channel.
Right, I feel like
but they're
there's
connected,
a central focus.
hence they do get talked about. Moving on.
Right.
Any evidence of Earth curvature?
No.
Nope, nothing here.
No.
Okay, right, hold on to your seats. It's going to be 2 questions that might get long answers. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope.
No.
Spurs?
Without the container, no.
Oh, okay. Any scientific
Gas
evidence
pressure
of...
without the-
Oh, there was more. Go ahead, Spurs.
Well, I would just say that we have to be clear on what we're asking. Are we asking for gas or gas pressure without the container? You can have gas without the container that's not pressurized, right? But you need the container to pressurize the gas. Yeah?
If you like. Yeah, that's one way of... I'll ignore the little Weasley bit in the middle, but yes, basically.
Okay.
But we won't get on to your denial of atmospheric
Really?
pressure.
Are we going to have gas without gas pressure now? What?
That's the bit I was ignoring, Arwin.
Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes.
Ooh,
Wow.
wow.
Because remember, now gravity is just the name that they describe the force. They tell you just a word. And I have on screen. Can you share my screen, please, Nathan?
Yeah, sure. Not pornographic, is it?
No, of course not. That wouldn't
Okay.
suit well.
You're all right then. Just don't play it. Scrub only.
yeah.
Scrub
It's
only.
gravity porn.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So we're told that there was an atmospheric pressure, and he's a force, and he's describing this force. What we're being told is that this suction pad is sticking to this wall because of the gas, the atmosphere pressing on the pad. Yeah? Everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Agree?
Yes.
Yeah, you agree with that, Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So the question is, if we remove this pressure, this gas pressure, will this pad still stay on the wall? That's the question. Right?
No.
Good question. So now that you've said that, I'm going to guess that it's not going to, correct?
Well, no, we have, again, well, yeah, you can have your hypothesis, that's fine, but...
It's not a hypothesis, that's a guess.
The question is, as we know it now, this is only on this container because of the gas pressure, of the pressure.
It is a hypothesis.
Yeah?
Hold on, I've got a new answer. Go ahead, Sleeping Warrior. What did you say?
It is a hypothesis. You corrected Spurs when he said you can have your hypothesis, and you said it's not a hypothesis. It is a hypothesis.
Oh, it is. I said he can have...
It's not a scientific
Yeah, I'm
prediction.
agreeing with you. I'm disagreeing with Nathan.
It's not a scientific prediction. So if you want to use hypothesis colloquially, I'll agree with you. But
That's good.
we're
Sorry,
asking-
carry on.
Hold on.
Well-
Hold on. Let me just
right.
get clarity. Did you mean it's okay because he means colloquially?
Well,
Come on, I'll give it both ways. Come on, it is a prediction.
Hold on. No,
Hold on. Nathan,
hold on. We're
Nathan,
halfway there to Anthony
Look.
conceding he was wrong.
Look,
So-
Nathan,
No. Hold on. He's got both ways. Hold on, Spurs. Let's just nip this in the bud.
Okay.
So, were we contextualized scientifically here or not?
Nathan, you're a bastard.
I know I
I
am.
was agreeing with Spurs.
Let's hold those toes to the fire just for a couple more seconds.
Okay, I was wrong. Okay. Piss off.
Moving on. Thank you for the quick concession.
By the
No
way,
problem.
shout out to Right the Hand, who was the person who alerted us all to this particular experiment. That's
Okay,
done on
it's not an
YouTube.
experiment. let's get on with it. Let's see it fall off then. Come on, let's have it.
Well, again, it could be classed as a natural phenomenon. In this area, the invisible area, you're saying that we know somehow there is pressure here, an observed phenomena, gas pressure. So we apply this suction cup, and as a result of the gas pressure, you're saying this is the effect. The effect of this gas pressure is pushing against this. Yeah. So our observed phenomena is things sticking to containers. The things don't just stick to containers, do they?
Okay, I'll hold off my criticisms in regards to its adherence to scientific method
I don't
for
know.
now.
If it was really tightly pushed against it, then it may just stay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
why,
but
Arwin?
we
Hold
can
on,
read
hold
here,
on.
Arwin,
Why?
here-
Only if there's
Hold
a
on, this is
tiny
great.
bubble of air still in between, then it might.
Hold
get
on,
itself.
why? Why, Arwin?
Yep.
Why would it stay there? So you've removed all the air by pushing on it and forcing all of the air out. So there's no longer any air pushing back against, towards us, the viewer, in this pictorial example. So the pressure that was previously in the little bubble that he's about to push out with his thumb would be, at this point, before he presses it, pressing towards us, the viewer. Now, when it's removed, there's no longer anything pressing out. Therefore, my understanding would be that the gas pressure, the atmospheric pressure, is what's holding it against that glass. Now, you're saying, were that to be
there's a hole
removed...
through it?
Hold on, you're saying, were that to be removed, no, it would still stay there because... What?
I think I may have misunderstood the setup.
Okay, fair enough.
Is it like covering up a hole to the chamber?
No, it's just a sucker. Just a sucker.
So it's inside of the pressure chamber.
Yeah, he's gonna suck the air that's alleged to be holding it on. The pressure of the air on the outside is going to be what I alleged and conceded when asked is holding it against the glass. And Spurs's not hypothesis, demonstration will be that when the gas pressure is removed from the outside, it does not fall off, I assume. We haven't seen yet.
Right. Yeah.
So that was on the outside, Arwin. These are now on the inside of the
Yeah. I get it now. You don't have to explain it any further.
Yeah, so my hypothesis, Nathan, would be,
Not a
if I were
hypothesis.
right, that there is a pulling force, there is lower pressures, lower temperatures, and negative pressure. My hypothesis would be that a smaller area would create a greater pull, and the bigger ones would obviously create a weaker force, and we would see the smaller ones survive compared to the larger ones. And you're saying that they would all fall off. Armin says that they would stay on for another reason. Well, let's find out. Let's go forward.
No, Owen didn't say that. That was just a misunderstanding.
Well, what's Armin? Why would they stay on if there's no pressure?
Well, because look, if there is literally not even a micro bubble of air still in between, then there's still other forces also at play. There's still the material of the rubber naturally fitting in with the glass and all that. So if there's no air expanding in between to push it off, then it may simply just keep sticking.
So your hypothesis is what? What is
Not
the
a
cause
hypothesis.
of the effect?
I'm going to have to pull this apart if you keep using the same word. I've said it about 4 times, right? This is not an experiment and not a hypothesis. If you keep saying it, I'm going to have to drag you around by your short hairs, giving me independent and dependent variables.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do
Yeah,
that.
and
really?
Ranty, thanks for the comment in
Okay.
chat. That was not word salad. If you don't get that, you're a dumbass.
Hold on.
Very
What's going
direct.
on? Hold on. No, I can't let this happen, guys. I want it to happen, but I don't want it to happen while Spurs is making an example. Please, whatever you're doing to taunt him, Ranty, probably in the bloody chat, please stop. Don't snigger. This isn't funny. Spurs is making an example. I want to hear it. Please carry on, Spurs.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to get everybody's hypothesis on what they think.
God damn you. Right, now I've got to, haven't I? Okay, what's the observed natural phenomena here?
Gas pressure.
A phenomena is something happening.
something sticking as a result of gas pressure.
So where do we observe this in the natural world?
Spiders that climb walls.
Spiders that climb walls.
Bugs, geckos, anything that can climb a wall, you need pressure behind it to climb that wall.
No.
So in nature, we
That's
saw
wrong. That's not
the
correct.
ability for them to stick.
That's
to
not
the
correct.
Wall. It's pressure.
So
hold
on, Spurs.
If I saw in nature
It's
gecko
not correct.
sticking to the wall, I would say, well, that must be the atmospheric pressure pushing it to the wall.
Right, but you've also had a retort to that by Arwin. So Arwin's saying that there could be mechanical interference between these two materials, the surface and the suction pad. And if you remove the air pressure from the inside of the suction pad and the outside, you're only left with the mechanical adherence. That's essentially Arwin's argument. So there's already a rebuttal in that regard. In regards to insects, well, no, you can see insects under a microscope that can climb up glass because they've got little tiny fibrous hairs on the ends of their, whatever you call them, legs, that can stick inside tiny little cracks. And if there aren't any cracks in the glass, they can't climb up them.
That's not true. It's to do with electrostatics is why they can climb.
Well, that's not air pressure then, is it? So we've already got multiple causes.
But hold on. But why can't I say this is not air pressure then? Why this is sticking to the wall? You're claiming this is air pressure. And I'm saying, well, let's test that. Let's find out if it is because of the pressure or not. So you have a claim, and I'm going to debunk that claim by showing that the pressure is not the cause. You see?
Right. And what is the cause?
Well, we can get to that after we remove your cause, manipulate it, remove it, discard it.
You don't understand, Spurs. Maybe if I rephrase my question. We've established what you claim to be an observed natural phenomena. Now you're saying insects. I'm sure there's a variety that did use suction cups. So yeah, we'll let that fly.
Maybe.
So we'll let that fly. But now we're moving on to the other side of a hypothesis, which is the presumed cause, the independent variable. What's that?
Mm-hmm. The independent variable in this case,
external pressure,
would be the pressure that's outside. We're not going to change that. We're going to change the pressure on the inside.
Right. So you're saying your hypothesis is if pressure, then suction.
No. If you remove, no, I'm saying that we're saying that why are they sticking to the wall? Because they're being pressed by pressure. If we remove that pressure, then that's no longer a cause.
Okay, so pressure's your independent
variable. So then
variable.
if pressure, then suction. He just said it.
Oh, suction.
And then you just repeated it. Yes.
Sorry.
Suction's probably the wrong word because there's a certain implication. But whatever. That part of the semantics isn't relevant. Fine, carry on, Spurs. We're all clear what's going on now. Great.
Right. So let's move forward. They're falling off. He's lowering the.
Sorry, I was really my bad. I forgot one other thing. What were your control variables? The control variables. How are you controlling for mechanical suction, if you will? I know that's the wrong word again, but we're using it in the same context.
We've got different sizes, different levels, bigger ones, smaller ones.
Yeah, but they've all got mechanical interference, haven't they?
A mechanical interference,
yes.
Like what?
Well, like the interference between. You've already had this explained by Arwin, and I summarised it. So the interference of the material itself with the glass.
Yeah, I think this could be a natural one. If there's a pull in there, if what is created inside here is created in the real world, well then it's natural.
No, it's not. We're talking about plastics on a glass. So what I'm saying is, even if we accept the fact that this is analogous to your natural phenomena, how have you isolated the other things that can cause things to stick to other things?
Well, I think you should watch the rest of the video.
Especially because it's designed to do just that.
No, hold on a second. Whoa. Why are we jumping all over the place?
Because we're trying to establish scientific validity. Hold on, there's an answer, Spurs. Well, Spurs, there's an answer. Spurs, there's an answer. Because you keep saying hypothesis. So you've got to have independent, dependent, and control variables.
Can I answer this for you, Spurs?
Yeah, go ahead, because I don't see what. Go ahead.
Okay. So essentially, first he's going to remove the pressure from the outside of these cups and see what happens. And what you'll see is that some still remain on the glass. Then they're going to try the test again, and this time they're going to apply weights to these suction cups. And then see if it's the material themselves that's actually causing these to still stay on. So, and then they're going to remove the gas pressure from the outside of it yet again. So they are going to get to that at some point further on in the video.
Okay.
Sorry, Spurs.
So the point is, Nathan, is that we're trying to manipulate the cause that you're saying is holding the thing. You're saying it's the pressure. It's the pressure. So,
yes. And we've gone past that bit. Now we're on to the other variables that could potentially pollute the cause and effect relationship. You have to isolate. So the reason I asked for control variables is to know that you've isolated the other interactions.
Okay, so here you're saying there is one interaction. You haven't accounted for any of the variables. You've just said pressure.
Spurs, why are you giving me this burden of proof reversal fallacy? No, this is your example. No, I'm just asking what your control variables are based on Arwin's objection.
What?
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm going by what you said is the cause of this.
I asked you what the cause was. I'm not going to make... This is not my example. Right. Please don't use the burden of proof reversal fallacy. This isn't... I've never even seen this. This is definitely not my example. I'm not clarifying terms. I'm asking you to.
I think it might have been easier, Spurs. What you tend to do is come in and talk about experiments, and we get bogged down with this experimentation sort of thing. It would have been better to come in, do the presentation, show them what's happening with these suction things, explain what's going on, and then ask people and say, well, what do you think's happening? That would be far better than just trying to go through this experimental thing.
Can I ask a question?
So that's the problem with coming in with hypothesis and the variables
I
and
did
all
that.
that.
Is we can't play. If I could play the video, I wouldn't have spoken. I wouldn't have said one word. I would just play the video, and then we would have had a discussion about it like we did last night. But I have to stop the video, just explain. Stop the video, explain. What are we looking at here? What's going on? Talk to me. So I have to explain. Then you stop me while I'm talking. Oh, go further, go deeper. So like Ranty said, if I'd have shown you, from A to Z, and then you could have said, well, what's going on here? What's the cause? What's the effect? And all those things. So that's the problem here, Chocolate, is that I have
that's the problem we have with the way you're formulating the explanation of an example or demonstration on a video. You're saying hypothesis. Well, that's wrong, because you haven't got the control variables. You haven't isolated your independent variable. You know what you believe is the cause, but it's not been isolated.
Yeah. But you're saying you're doing the same thing then by saying this is pressure.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that if you want to elucidate the cause of an effect, there's a method, very useful method, for doing so. It's called the scientific method. Now, you've got, it seems... hold on, Spurs!
I'm trying to work with you here.
You're not, though, because you're talking over me while I'm explaining how it could have a truly empirical, elucidated cause, and you're talking all over me.
Because you're trying to trick me.
I'm not trying to trick you. Why isn't he letting me talk? What's going on here? Can anybody help me? What's going on? So, I'm trying to explain the issue. I asked you not to use the word hypothesis, and you insisted. Now we're going through it, and you're saying that I'm trying to trick you. No, I'm trying to explain that if you want to elucidate, the second time I'm trying to say this, if you want to elucidate the cause of an effect... Now, I'm going to ignore the natural phenomena bit in this regard and just say, fine, you've got yourself an effect. You've got yourself a presumed cause. Now you need to isolate it in order to establish, with it isolated, that it is the, i.e. sole cause of the effect. And the way that's achieved is with the control variables, isolation of the independent variable, by controlling other things that could cause the effect. Now, you haven't got that. That's not a criticism. It just means it's not scientific. And I was more than happy to have the example in full as a demonstration. But you kept calling it a hypothesis, which is wrong. Sorry. Not me tricking you. Just an explanation of the method needed to actually elucidate the cause of this effect.
Why did you give your hypothesis and why it's sticking to the wall?
Because it's not my example. Again, burden of proof reversal fallacy.
No, but if I ask you, there's an observation here, what's going on, and you give your hypothesis of why you think this
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
You're asking for a prediction, and I gave you one.
Yeah, mystic
No,
made
I'm asking-
prediction.
Not a hypothesis.
Nathan, why did Nathan say originally it's the atmosphere pushing that, and then
Yeah, that's
argue that
called-
it is the atmosphere?
That's called, and I clarified it with this word, a guess, not a hypothesis. I made that absolutely clear.
Yeah. So that's the point. You're guessing there's atmospheric pressure. You're
Yeah,
guessing there's
guess.
pressing.
Yeah, guess. Just a
Yeah,
guess.
guess.
A meaningless, insignificant, definitely not empirical guess. Yes, that's right.
So everybody's getting worked up. Everyone's getting worked up over you guessing that there's atmospheric pressure.
Spurs, can you
That's
see
not
water
what
in there?
happened. What a misrepresenting prick. I haven't just guessed that there's gas pressure, right? I've guessed that these things will fall off. Why are you misrepresenting what I've said?
Well, how have you hypothesized gas pressure?
I haven't. Third time I'll said it. This is
Was a
your
statement.
example. I'm not making hypotheses. You are. But when we ask you to qualify what your hypothesis is, it's not a hypothesis because it doesn't have control variables.
Right. Are you guessing that we live in a gas pressurized area? Or
No,
do you
we
know
definitely have
there is
gas,
pressure?
and it definitely produces pressure. Not
Is
a
that a
guess,
guess? Is
a
that a
fact
guess?
of life.
Yeah, how do I know when you're guessing, Nathan, and when you're telling the truth because you've scientifically validated something?
Sorry, I don't need to scientifically validate that we have gas.
Yeah, but how do I know when you're guessing if there's atmospheric pressure or not?
Well, when asked a question specifically about what the outcome of an event I haven't seen yet is, and I give an answer and qualify that it's a guess, you can pretty much take it as read that that's a guess.
Can I mediate? Spurs, you're not going to be to do this presentation if Nathan's not going to allow it to continue if you continue to keep saying it's an experiment. If you were to just talk about what's going on and ask the panel, you might be able to get through this and we can then discuss it.
Well said, Ranty. Thank you.
Exactly.
Well, this is the thing.
Right.
I did ask why is this sticking to the wall? And people gave their guess about why it's sticking to the wall.
Yeah?
That's what's happened, yeah?
Spurs,
Yeah. I'll just say it one last time.
Spurs, is
If
it
you
not
wanna-
designed to stick to the wall?
Oh, just one more thing. Just if you want to actually validate a scientific inquiry, then you put it through the method. Now, we're not, and that's fine. We can have a little guess. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you declare after performing an example, a demonstration of something occurring, that you've got a valid cause of that effect because you've had a guess and your guess came true, well, then you've not empirically validated your guess. That's the problem.
But what this experiment can do is
It's
prove
literally
that
pissed it
it's
in our faces
something-
within his
it-
first
it's a
2 words.
demonstration.
3
what
words.
this experiment can do. It can't prove
Not
what
an
it is,
experiment.
but it can prove. It
Why
can
does he
prove
do
what
it?
It's not.
He's doing it deliberately, Ranty. He just ignored you.
Well,
In this
whatever
experiment
is,
was the
whatever
first
you call
words.
whatever this demonstration shows, it can show what it's not. It can prove what it's not. That's the point.
Really? Well, let me tell you this, Spurs. In the scientific method, you do not test the null. You test the alternative. Now, let me explain what that means. It means that when you vary and manipulate that which you presume is the cause of the effect, you are manipulating the positive claim. I think A causes B. Now, in that hypothesis, you also have a null, which is to say, if A not B, but you don't directly test the null. You're not testing for a negative result. You're testing to validate what you presume causes it. You're looking to validate your hypothesis, not validate the null.
So we can show that it's not pressure in this experiment. Or this
It's not an
Can we
experiment.
move on? Because obviously, Spurs, you're going to keep saying it's an experiment. Nathan's going to keep pulling you back.
demonstration, whatever, it doesn't matter.
We've got 20 people on the panel in different servers, all waiting to have a talk about stuff, and you two are just going back and forth. We're never going to get anywhere.
All right, move on.
Thank you.
Well, Flatzoid wanted to say something, plus Adam Meekan posted fiber in the chat as well.
Go ahead, Flatzoid, and then you can continue, Spurs. Sorry.
I just want to ask a simple question. Spurs, did you see water in there?
Water in what? Water in what?
in this example.
You claim that they're taking all the atmosphere out. You say pressure can't exist without water. I'm saying, did you see water?
No, I didn't see water.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Can I say one thing?
No,
I think
I promised
story
Spurs
this
he could
week
continue his example,
is
Dallas. So before you immediately talk, having asked permission, no, Spurs hasn't made his example yet.
Well, yeah, let's just wrap it up. Point is, he removes pressure, zero pressure. Let's go forward. And they still stay on. So there's nothing pushing on the suction cups, yet they stay. And he's so concerned that they don't fall off because there's no pressure. Really? He has to apply his own pressure to the suction cups. So he's removed the pressure, then adds pressure, and then they still don't fall off until the last moments. They still stay on, they're struggling to fall off. And then finally, this small one with the most suction force keeps this, there's nothing pushing behind it, but it stays on. And then obviously, finally, it comes off. But if we're to think that atmospheric pressure is the cause of any pressing or pushing, we can demonstrate that it's not. So I don't understand why we think the atmosphere is pressing against this box.
Oh, because it is.
Isn't the suction cup acting as a container itself?
Yeah, the suction cup creates a vacuum.
So your conclusion is this disproves that gas causes pressure? That's your conclusion?
No, the conclusion is that the atmosphere is not pressing, it's not pressurized.
Oh, it is. That's total nonsense.
There's no pressing in this box.
Yeah, it is.
But they're on the wall.
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah, this is zero. There's no pressure inside the box.
Yeah, unfortunately, you haven't isolated your control variables to prove that the sole cause of the suction cup staying on the glass is atmospheric pressure. That's not been isolated.
The pressure's been removed. Yeah,
I understand that. That's the cause, and I keep saying it, but it just gets whistled past. The control variables aren't there, though, Spurs, are they? There's other things that can cause sticking in this equation.
Things. Yeah, that's right.
Things, so what you're doing is...
How about the rubber, the actual forces within the rubber, how it was molded?
Could be electric, could be anything, could be magic. But we
know
it's not.
So it's not just your independent... So Spurs... Spurs, so it's not just your independent variable.
Just that.
It's not just the independent variable then, Spurs. There's other things at play that you haven't isolated.
Well, I've removed the pressure, so we know that.
Yes, you just keep saying it. I've removed the pressure. Yes, we know. But the other things, the controls.
What other things?
The other things that could cause the effect, like the mechanical connection between... Yeah, you rumpus the shit out of me, Spurs. Yeah.
Just saying afternoon.
Hey,
hello, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah, you haven't isolated the other things that could cause them to stick.
What other things?
The mechanical connection for the 5th time.
Yeah, what? Show me what I need to manipulate.
Spurs, was this same demonstration performed with a material or an object that was not designed to stick to glass?
Let me side with Spurs a little bit. What controls need to be controlled in this test? What else is there?
What else?
Well, these things are designed to stick to glass.
Let me test my microphone. Hold on. Let's just test it. Testing. It's not working, is it? My mic's not working. How many times have I said the mechanical connection? How many times have I said that?
I have a good suggestion to improve.
It's not working. My mic's dead, isn't it?
Supposed setup. Instead of these type of rubber suction cups, take a less flexible object, like like a metal, half a cup, press it against it, have a hole in one side with a machine that actually will suck the air out, and then it will be only the vacuum that'll actually keep it there. So maybe then if you take away the pressure in the vacuum chamber that surrounds that cup, then eventually it'll just fall off because the vacuum or the pressure differential is the only thing keeping it there.
I don't think that's true. And I'll tell you why. Because if you put that rubber next to the glass, it'll just fall down every time. You have to press it. You have to make a suction connection on it to actually hold up. You can't just make the rubber stick to the glass without applying any kind of suction pressure.
Yeah, you need a force.
And I'm waiting for Nathan to tell me what of the variables need to be manipulated. We've removed the pressure, the cause that he says caused it to stick to the wall. Now, what else should I change? What should I vary? What is there that I can manipulate?
Let's try again. The mechanical connection.
What does that mean? What are you talking about? Show me, describe. Where is it? What is this? What do you mean?
You don't understand what mechanical means.
Not when it comes to the suction pad. We know how they work. You remove the air and a vacuum is created. Suction.
Oh, so what you're saying is because you don't know what a mechanical connection is, you've decided that the only connection, and you're going to call that mechanical, is the pressure. No, that's wrong. That's not a mechanical connection. Look it up.
Well, the only connection between the rubber and the other...
Yes, I understand that you're presupposing that which you have got as your independent variable is the controls. I understand that, Spurs. You're just wrong.
How can I be wrong? You haven't demonstrated other...
Because you're not taking into account the mechanical connection for about the 6th time.
Well, can you just tell me what else I should demonstrate? Or
The mechanical connection between the two materials.
How would you do that?
I'm not a biophysicist. I don't know about these materials. They're not my example. Why are you asking me to do it for the 3rd time? Please don't burden of proof reversal fallacy. Like I care. This isn't my example. I'm saying there is a mechanical connection between these two items. That's a fact. You don't have to like it or understand what it means or control it in your experiment.
Yeah, I've told you what the connection is. It's a
yeah, it's the pressure, blah blah blah, pressure. It's the pressure, and therefore I'm controlling that. Therefore, pressure doesn't exist. Bollocks.
Adam Macon, if you could join in, obviously you joined the show for a reason.
I could make a couple of comments. I think
please save us.
The first point I would suggest is Tony did a great experiment where he keeps the water held up in a bell jar with a small amount of air at the top. And whilst atmospheric pressure does play a very minor role pushing back, the main way in which the suction, as we would call it, the reason it's sticking, isn't due to the atmospheric pressure. It's due to the fact that once you create a really nice seal, then to pull it off, it actually requires a force that will expand the gas inside the little suction cup. And that's why they will fall off, even in a vacuum, if you apply enough force. Now, that force can be reduced if you put it into a vacuum. If you leave atmospheric pressure out there, that allows a certain pushback, which means less of a force is required to pull it off. But the force to pull it off is the force required to expand those gases, and they're actually quite large. That's why suction cups work. Now, the reason some of the others fall off is pretty much down to mechanical seal integrity. Does that make sense?
Yes, Adam, thank you. Very concise as always.
Makes sense to me. Yep.
You're fighting against the natural forces of gases and their natural resistance with their energy levels to resist that expansion. And that expansion is what creates the suction, or the resistance to that expansion is what creates the suction. So even with a vacuum,
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are
you finished, Adam? Was that your
this week?
Hold on, David. Was that the end of your summary, Adam?
Well, yeah. Hopefully that
Go ahead,
would be
David.
my understanding of that mechanics of what's going on.
Perfect. It was very concise. Thank you again. Go ahead, David.
I just wanted to say that the big consensus that's went down this week is that we have the top guys that are pushing the globe Earth to agree that there is a gravity force field that is holding the atmosphere on the Earth. We had George, Rumpus, and I'd like to ask this gentleman here if he's in agreement, that a gravity force field is what's holding the atmosphere of the Earth on the Earth.
Who are you asking?
Wait, did Rumpus jump on the force field bandwagon?
Cool.
Really?
Rumpus
Science
agreed
fiction
to the force
progress, guys.
field. George has agreed to the force field, and I'd like to ask the gentleman that just spoke if he also believes that the atmosphere is a gravity force field that holds the atmosphere on the Earth.
I see. Adam, I think that's directed at you.
I'd be happy to address that. If you go back probably 6 months or so, me and Riley were on Globebusters discussing this. And no, I don't believe it. I actually, what their belief is that gravity can somehow affect gas behavior, which is demonstrable that it doesn't. I'll refer to John Dee's recent Smoking Gun 2 video. So their hypothesis, and it is only a hypothesis substantiated with very, very poor mathematics, which is not provable, is to suggest that the force of gravity slows down eventually to create this force field. I've never heard such a load of nonsense. And the assumption that just because I understand gas law that I therefore equate to every single other bit of science is nonsensical in itself.
Well, we would agree that this is the common knowledge that is given to 7 billion or how many ever people are on this earth, that this is the reason for this phenomenon, right?
No.
That you're pretty much now on me and Chemo's side on this argument, it sounds like.
Sorry, why would you assert that? I just got a quick question. Sorry,
one way or the other, mate, and it's neither. There's a phrase: "Don't chuck the baby out with the bathwater." Okay?
Well, he's drawn a conclusion, Adam. I'm sorry, the live show's going to end soon. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Adam, but he's also asserted that like 8 billion people or however many he asserted think as George does. Well, did George provide cited sources and examples of this? Because I haven't heard any examples of this. If George has got, demonstrated proof that people adhere to his nonsense, then your statement that everyone thinks as George does would ring true. But why would you say that, David?
Well, for one, George came on Ranny's and did a 2-hour show. He's admitted to his credentials. He has stated this is what is taught in all the school books around the world. Exactly what George told you is common science
Can you show me one?
That gravity holds the atmosphere on the Earth. If you ask any person,
don't appeal to David. Don't appeal to consensus. You're saying it's in every school book. Okay, hands up on the panel. Who's read in a school book that Earth's atmosphere is held on by a gravitational force field?
Nope.
Nope.
No,
I'm sure it probably is out there.
The research, guys, to find the citations that relate to that. And when we talk about gas laws, there is lots of experiment that validates this. Okay. However, when you're talking about the behavior of the atmosphere and supposition as to why it sticks, there is no experimental validation. There is a very small amount of theoretical physics with regards to molecular speed and how it's impeded by a supposed force to suppose, but there is no experiment to back that up. And as a flat earther, I find it insulting that you would ascribe that to me based on no knowledge whatsoever.
Go for me for Adam.
Hashtag Domefield.
Hashtag crashed and burned.
I'm more interested
I do actually think there probably is citations out there that you can quote for, maybe not in a children's book, but perhaps you can look it up about gravity holding the atmosphere.
That might be the case, minimal. But like I said, it's theoretical particle physics in terms of gas behavior and supposed effects of gravity on it, which has never been demonstrated by experiment. Hence why when I researched it, looked it up, all I could find was a little bit of flim-flam to support it, and therefore I have no reason whatsoever to believe that flim-flam. I still stand by the second law of thermodynamics.
That's why it interests me why David would punt the idea that everybody thinks this way. Why would you have that perception when that's simply not the case?
Well, George, the consensus, in the science community, the consensus is that gravity holds the atmosphere on the Earth.
Sorry, no, don't just declare the claim again.
What's gravity?
Shh. I just want to get this in before the live show ends. You've just done it again, David. You've made the same claim. Now, we know your claim.
Okay, what would be the other?
I haven't finished talking.
What other explanation would there be?
Well,
somebody
you
that
just
believes
keep your
in gravity
example
and they
for
live on-
why you're claiming 8
What?
million
Hold
people think
on.
this. No, not hold on. I'm asking the same question that you've obfuscated and just repeated the claim 3 times. Yeah, you've declared it again really boldly, and now I want a concise answer to why you're declaring that everybody thinks this way because George has said so.
Well, what they do, Nathan, is they ascribe the atmosphere with a weight.
No,
And
not
all
the
they do-
example. I want to know why he's saying what George has said is suddenly how everybody thinks, when it isn't.
What other explanation have you heard?
That's
from
not
them?
a reason to justify saying everybody thinks this way. That's my question.
Name one. If I'm naming the one, name any other one that they would believe.
That's not my question. Why would you ascribe this
that's
to
my
everybody
question. There is no
on the
other
face
answer.
of
That
the
is the
plane?
answer. They
He's talking
will
over me and
give you the
obfuscating. We're rounding out the show, and he won't answer me. He's just obfuscating and talking over me. I want to know why you've ascribed this to everybody. Everybody thinks this way, and when asked why, you go, because every scientist says it and George says it. Well, no, we've just had somebody who's highly educated and has a scientific background say he hasn't been taught that. He's been taught the second law of thermodynamics, which absolutely craps on the idea that consensus is behind your statement. Now, other than George saying it, I want to know why you have ascribed it to everybody. That's my question.
Well, we've got Rumpus that ascribes to the same thing. You're telling me that these guys that
So, on the basis that George and Rumpus say it, for some reason, the guy who claims to be a flat earther is saying that everybody on the planet thinks this way. Everybody on the planet thinks we've got a dome sphere. Yeah? And I say everybody on the planet because that's what this guy is ascribing this idea to. Why? Well, because Rumpus and George say it. So, George and Rumpus, they speak for everybody, do they, in your mind?
That's what Rumpus said. Rumpus said everybody agrees with
And
me.
George
That's why
literally said that like for the first time that I've heard only like a few days ago.
I'd like to say something, and that's that Adam said to me recently when he was talking about chemistry, is that he doesn't, chemists don't get taught the same as different scientists or whatever in their different fields. The same as somebody that builds roads, so they don't take into effect the 8" per mile squared. They don't need to account for curvature. They're not taught that, yeah? But in the model, they ascribe weight to the atmosphere. Weight is obviously a byproduct of gravity. So the general consensus would be that the atmosphere has weight and is held down by gravity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it's taught in all these different fields.
It's not, because it doesn't. It's an anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture of gases. So it's not going to be pressing on other stuff in that regard and forming layers, as they explain in their crappy examples. Anyway, if you want to see the continuation of this conversation, you're going to need to subscribe to the Nathan Oakley channel, link in the info box below this video. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel. It was a very good show. So thanks to everyone in Discord and Google Plus for making the show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience. As I say, stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
It's far the fifth. I would not have, within my education, have gone into the realms of consideration with regards to how the atmosphere is held on. It would have been part of the syllabus. However, we are taught in great detail gas law, and we understand it. So, if
do
at any
you believe
point,
do you believe in gas pressure? That's the question.
there is. Let me get to the point, and then you can ramble on again, son. With regards to that, a bit like when John first stumbled across it, and anyone who is educated stumbles across it and sees the misnomers, sees the contradiction. Now, yes, within academia, I was talking to John D yesterday about this, how within academia we are stuck in boxes. But you know, if you step outside your box and use the proven scientific knowledge that you've accrued, it does enable you to look at certain things and go, that's bollocks, and it doesn't make sense. And even if you've been brainwashed through academia, you still have a level of thinking that allows you to apply things that you can prove. And
Just
know
one second. Just one second, Adam. Tony, fat fingers, stop typing or mute yourself, please. You keep cutting Adam out. Thank you.
So yeah, we then can look at it, and I think what you're seeing with regards to, and I thank you for the compliments, with regards to educated at degree and above level, we assume that those fellow academics have posed the same question, and what we tend to find actually is that there is no backing up for a lot of their statements, and when we use the same knowledge, we have questions and contradictions that we point out. When, as I said at the beginning, when you then investigate that and look for the supporting evidence that is supposedly there, which you assume because it's not your field, is there, you come to the conclusion that it is absolute waffle and there isn't anything to support it. So I'm quite happy to say, you know, in particular areas, you're not taught that. I mean, this particular thing isn't taught anywhere and is a very, very obscure bit of information, but it's very odd that people are ascribing, just because you've been educated within a specific field, that you ascribe to other people's fields. That's not the case. And in most cases, this red pilling effect, where you actually do bother to look at it, the knowledge that you have accrued that can be backed up with experiment helps you swallow that red pill a lot quicker. And I think it's a little disingenuous to keep this kind of questioning along those lines. It's a little frustrating for me to keep being told that I think this, that, and the other, when the basis of that supposition seems to be via the rumpus or other less informed people. That, I mean, I don't even know what Rumpus says he's at a university. He could be a cleaner at a university for all I know. I don't know what his field is. He's never announced it. But I don't take the rumpus. Even if I was a baller, I wouldn't be taking the rumpus as my speaker, my delegate for my opinion. And nobody should take anybody else's opinion. You know, go and research it and validate any conclusion you want to draw yourself.
Especially when he says things like air is not the atmosphere.
Or at 5 miles per hour, he's in Coriolis at the equator.
Or with a big enough telescope and a bright, clear enough day, you can see your own ass in a telescope. Yeah.
See, the problem is you're reasonable. What Randy's been hollering at is we're looking for a reasonable person that can explain their globe Earth model without double speak or outrage, and be able to sit down and have a conversation just like this one. How can you have atmospheric pressure without a container?
Oh, you can't. It's the necessary.
We don't need explanations anymore. Now we need a demonstration of that nonsense. Okay,
yeah.
We're tired of the explanations.
I can explain.
Now we got a new explanation, a force field. Come the fuck on.
I can explain it. It's not.
Yeah, but you've taken George's explanation, and George isn't a reasonable person. He attacked Brian Mullen and tried to end his career on an incorrect position that he held about the Coriolis effect on Earth. You know, the Earth-based Coriolis needing two separate reference frames in order for it to have a Coriolis effect. Brian Mullen pointing out that it doesn't have the necessary ingredients to have a Coriolis effect on Earth because the flight times would be significantly reduced when flying west. And in pointing that out, he was attacked by this George character who, you know, contacted the person who supplies his license to do engineering, I believe, or something along those lines. Or surveying, I forget what Brian Mullen actually was now, it's such a long time ago. But nonetheless, contacted the person who's providing him with the license on the basis of his incorrect assertions about Coriolis effect. So George has never conceded this, he's just a complete arsehole. He's the devil. George isn't a person that you should be taking anything from, he's not a reasonable man.
Adam, Nathan.
That's terrible.
Adam, Nathan, so, you know, you say we live in gas pressure inside the container. How have we ever taken a gas reading from inside the container? How do you do
barometer?
So you're saying you could take a barometer inside a gas canister and take a reading?
Yeah, totally.
Excuse me,
Isn't that-
Spurs. Didn't you just show a video with the guy having a pressure gauge?
Yeah, I'm asking the question to Adam and
No, I know,
Nathan.
but hang on.
I know, but
That's a good point.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
no.
Spurs,
Yeah, I
Spurs.
know,
I'd like
but I'm just trying to
Spurs. Can you stop saying no, please, Spurs? Go ahead, 10th man.
Didn't you just show a video that had a pressure gauge and you were trying to use that pressure gauge to validate what you were trying to say? And now you're saying there's no such thing as a pressure gauge to validate anything? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so can I ask my question now?
No, answer mine and then go
Answer
back to
his first.
Yeah, but I was asking a question.
I am too.
So what's wrong with my question? Why is your question more important?
There you go.
What's
Oh,
wrong?
I
with
can
your
answer that.
question is
I can
it's
answer
not
that.
the answer.
I can answer that. The reason his question is more important is because it flies in the face of your original assertion. Now, I appreciate at this stage, Spurs, that you actually will require us to have conceded your non-experiment experiment, which is why you kept on calling it an experiment, even though it wasn't. Because with that experiment in hand and the conclusion that, well, gas pressure isn't pressing on anything, you could make your conclusion without challenge by 10th man.
No, I'll answer his question, but I asked the question.
I got a question for you.
We promise you we'll come back to your question.
Let
Do
mine
you have
answer.
gas pressure without temperature?
That question can be answered, but I'm
Dave, shut up, Dave, please.
Okay,
that question
now
can be answered.
you're
But I was
telling
simply
me
saying to Nathan and Adam because they were talking the last, and I was simply saying that how did you measure the pressure
You're
from
telling me
inside
that okay, I'm just going to talk like you, Spurs.
Yeah, he's not going to allow it. Spurs won't allow it, 10th man. So I'll just
that's
reiterate
why I'm
it.
to do what he does. I'm just going to talk until he stops
Yeah, I don't mind.
how to answer a question.
I've got it, but let me control both of you though, 10th man. So yeah, feel free to repeat your question to him, 10th man.
How is it that you used a video that used a pressure gauge to validate what you wanted to say? And then when we want to use the same type of pressure gauge, you say you can't use it.
Well, how do you measure gas pressure inside the container?
Don't ask a question, answer the question.
Well, that's what I'm asking. How do you measure
My
gas
question is, how do you interchangeably agree with a pressure gauge at some times and not the other times?
Well, that's my point. How do you measure from inside the container?
That's not your point. It's not
So
answering.
did you ask that question of the person? Did you ask that question of the same person that you used the example of, the demonstration? Did you ask that person how did he measure the pressure with the pressure gauge that he's using?
Thank you,
No, right?
Chocolate.
Chocolate, did he have the gauge inside the container or outside the container?
Is it physically
Chocolate,
possible?
honestly,
I'm going to let him do it. Hold on, let me get control again. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. Hold on, Spurs. It seems like, having been obliterated by 10th man, you make the conclusions over and over again, and that's not reasonable. I'd like 10th man to make his conclusion. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, my conclusion is that when I go use any type of pressure gauge, I normally go by what it says because they have proven themselves to work, whether I'm filling air in the tire or I'm taking the temperature of my body, anything like that. I have no reason to doubt them. But Spurs comes on and says they're man-made, they don't work, and we can't trust them. And then he uses it in the video to prove a point, which I don't understand. If they're man-made and we can't trust them, how do we know what that pressure gauge said on that video is actually happening?
Well, this is what I'm asking. Did he take the measurement from inside the container or outside of the container? Where was the gauge?
I'm asking you a question about the viability of any gauges, and you're saying this is the question I'm asking and avoiding my question.
What's wrong with the man-made device?
That's another. He just keeps doing it. He's
Wait
gonna,
a minute.
He's
Now
learned.
what's wrong with the man-made Spurs, man?
The thing is with
Come
Spurs,
on, bro.
right? To his
You
credit,
just graduated from red herring salesman.
yeah, he has. That's what I was about to say, Arwin. We're of like mind. Basically, the situation is as follows. Spurs spends so much time with obfuscating ballers that he's become trained in obfuscation, and now he's really, really good at it.
But I asked a simple question to you and Adam. I said, how do you
There he
take
goes again.
measurement from
I asked
inside
simple
the
questions.
container?
You were being asked a question by 10th man, which you haven't answered. It's been about 5 or 6 times of the repetition, me highlighting to the audience that I'm having to close off the airways from you making endless conclusions. But you haven't answered the question. You've had a summary of the conclusion being made in the face of you not answering the question, and when the question's repeated, you say, that's what I'm asking. No, you're not asking that. You're not asking that at all. It's a completely different question that you haven't asked.
Yeah, and I will get to 10th man's question after I ask my question. That was the
Excellent
point.
obfuscation. No, just get to it now.
Well, why? Why not get to mine first?
Because it demolishes your point. You're using something that you're trying to decry in your example. That's the point.
Yeah, but we can get to that. We can get to that.
Let's get to it now.
Really? Like Rumpus gets to the point?
Why? Why now? Why not get to my...
Yeah, he is. He's like Rumpus. Well, Alwyn, we're of like mind today. Absolutely correct.
I think this question is more important.
Spurs. When they're asking about can you isolate any of the other variables, what you need to do is a little more research on some of the things that people have asked.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they mentioned was static today, right? So I just did a little bit of research for you, and I've sent you the video. I've actually got it on my screen, and it does static work in a vacuum, right? Mm-hmm. So by watching that video, you can decide whether or not static works. So you can then come back to Nathan, and when they say if you isolated the independent variable or one of the causes that they're claiming, you can say, well, actually, static doesn't work in a vacuum as demonstrated in this experiment here.
Excellent.
Right? So this is what you need to do. You need to remember back to all the people, what they said. Does rubber stick to the glass? Does static electricity work in a vacuum? When you can come back with those answers and say, we've eliminated this, and this, then you can put something together. I think that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Monty. Absolutely.
Great. Now get back to answering my questions first.
Yeah, which is what? Okay, what's your...
Yukimo agrees that the tire pressure works on the...
No, let's just get 10th man's question rather than his wingman helping him out.
Question. That's what they're so desperate to avoid this question, but we can get to that later.
Why is it you're decrying gas pressure?
Wow, you're accusing us of avoiding questions.
Yeah, why is it you're decrying gas pressure based on the measurement use, i.e. a gauge, and then you're using an example with a gauge?
Why would I deny a gauge? Gauges work underwater. Gauges work with real pressure. We can stand on a scale and gauge how heavy we are. Gauges work. How are you measuring? Now I'm asking, how are you measuring the pressure of gas from inside the container?
Yeah, barometer.
2 weeks ago,
Or
you
the barometer.
said gauges are man-made
Barometer.
and we can't use them.
Okay, so you're saying you can put a barometer inside a gas container and get a reading?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's see a demonstration. I've been showing demonstrations all week, on videos all week. So show me a barometer in gas pressure and show me the reading it gives you.
Spurs, when you've got the gauge on what you keep saying outside the container, you're aware that the gauge becomes part of the container.
Part of the container, yeah, part of the exactly. This is all outside the container, right? I don't.
No, it's not outside. Okay, technically, the reading bit is on the outside, but the actual thing that's actually measuring the pressure becomes part of the container wall. That's why it's able to measure it. It doesn't magically guess it from the outside.
I know, yeah. So put the gauge inside, and what will you get a reading?
The gauge is inside.
The gauge was inside that container.
The gauge is part of the container wall. Otherwise, the gauge wouldn't be able to read anything.
Yeah, but the
he's talking about
pressure inside.
Where you take the pressure gauge from the outside.
How does the gauge read pressure?
All I can hear is Spurs and David Dallas rumpusing each other.
Yeah, it uses pressure differential.
If he keeps going on.
But Adam, you're saying that when the nurse comes around to take your blood pressure, she puts the thing inside your arm to take your blood pressure, or outside your arm.
When you use a sphygmomanometer, Spurs, what it's doing is using pads within inside. That's why it feels tight, and it pumps up to a point where where the pressure pads within there are monitoring the pressure contained within your arm.
So why not put the pad inside your arm? Why not have a device that goes
That's a little bit more invasive of a procedure. What do you think?
My gosh, Spurs. There's a sensor. Okay, it's inside the container and the gauge is outside, or else it couldn't take a reading. That's what Adam's trying to say.
I'm sure you could do it. You could roll up that sleeve thing and shove it up his ass, right?
Okay, so let me explain that a little bit. So with regard
Well, yeah,
to
you know, like the tire gauge, Adam. How could you take the
first, let me explain your last bullshit analogy first before you go on to another one.
Chemo, will you
So
ask Adam how the atmosphere stays on the Earth, please? I want to know. Adam, how does the atmosphere?
Oh,
How do
God.
we have
Oh, God. All hell's broken loose.
Through one another.
Oh, it's because somebody who knows what they're talking about wants to make an example. I'll try and fend them off for you, Adam. Go ahead.
So with the sphygmomanometer, we have a convention where the pressures that we measure through the arm is what is described for people to understand blood pressure. However, if you were to able to micronize a pressure meter and put it inside an artery, you'll get different readings, okay? Because the reading you're getting isn't the interior, specifically the interior arterial pressure. It's an approximation based on taking a reading through a particular point, which is why we always try to take that reading from the same part of the body, particularly from within one patient. You wouldn't stick it on their arm one day, their leg the next day. It's an indication which, when we use that, which takes into account how it's working, yeah, it's an approximation, but it's not a direct measurement of the interior arterial pressure. It's a guesstimation, which is fairly accurate, which gives us a scale which enables us to look at that and say, actually,
Adam, how do we have gas pressure in the atmosphere? How do we have gas pressure in the atmosphere right now? They say there's 14.7. How do we have gas pressure?
Let me just point out this is fluid pressure that we're measuring here and not gas pressure when we're talking about blood pressures. Which
so
are very,
everybody
very
on this
different
panel
things,
is
because
wrong,
fluids have
including
weight,
Nathan.
All David's doing is rumpusing the living shit out of you. He's just said everyone on the panel is wrong, including Nathan. That's his input to interrupt you with.
Brilliant. Insightful,
He just
wasn't
said you're wrong, Nate. He just
means
said
shut
you're wrong.
up. That means shut up. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I just want to point out there that but most primarily we're measuring liquid pressure there, not gas pressures, which are very different, and hence why you're able to contain it within the arm and measure it.
Right, and also the pressure differential, right, from the maximum pressure to the minimum pressure, because that's also very important indicators. Right.
So Adam,
Did you hear what the man said? He says there is no gas pressure. He just told you there is no gas pressure.
That's not what he said.
Dallas, I swear, bro.
Said that's
Tell you
measuring.
what I would like to do is talk about these housekeeping questions that we did promise the audience we'd get to in the after show.
We already did housekeeping.
Yeah, we can rattle through them if you want to.
There's a different set of housekeeping questions.
Oh.
From the globe side.
Can you make it bigger? Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
I second that motion, Ranty. Let's get it on.
Bit bigger.
How big do you want it? Do you want just sort of like half the questions shown, and then we'll go to the other?
We'll scroll through them, but at the moment, keep going. There we go. That's perfect.
Okay. So question 1 from the Globers is: they want evidence of a lunar eclipse being possible on FE.
Sorry, when they say on FE, what does that mean?
On flat Earth.
They're suggesting that's impossible to see. The visual phenomena, that is.
We do see eclipses. That's a ludicrous question.
Let me start. I want to see what they claim is a lunar eclipse, because every time I've seen pictures of lunar eclipses, it looks like a red smudge on a black background, and they start explaining redshift and Doppler shift and all that kind of stuff. But what they're implying with the question is that there's a nice hard edge to what they say is the Earth casting a shadow on the moon. Well, if you look at lunar eclipse photographs online, you get a wide variety of them. And my query would be, well, how do we know that the Earth is even causing the shadow?
Very good point.
How do we even know that that's a shadow? First off,
right, it's a presupposition.
If the Earth was a ball, the distance between the light source and the Earth interceding to create its shadow, as you know, any shadow becomes bigger, particularly the further away the object is that it's cast upon. So actually, what you would tend to see if the Earth was creating that shadow would be a straight line all the time. There would be no crescenting, because the supposed curvature that you would see would be magnified. So the bit of the shadow casting would be a very small section of the Earth, which would appear as a straight line on the moon anyway, in terms of shadow.
Right, right.
No,
Would it
wait.
look as curved?
Not only that, I have a feeling that if you cast a
Ranty.
curved shadow over a curved object, so you have a curved shadow over a curved ball, I have a feeling that that shadow would straighten out.
Well,
Go
yeah,
back,
what
go
we're
back
doing.
3 years, watch Iron
I just
Realm
got-
Media, and we demonstrate this.
I just want to get one word in. It's just Ranty. It seems like this is a question that's almost a projection of their own inferiority with their model reification. So, is there any chance, can you add notes to this underneath where it says possible on FE full stop? Can you add a couple of carriage returns, or is this a screen cap?
It's a screen. I can't do anything.
You can't add anything to it.
I don't think so.
That's
anyway.
all right. I'll just do it verbally. So realistically, this question should be phrased in regards to their reification of a model, because that's why I asked for clarity of what they mean by FE. Do they mean when somebody reifies little balls of light moving over an azimuthal equidistant projection of a sphere? Is that what they mean by FE? Because I'd need that clarifying. But in reality, given that I don't know what the moon is, what an eclipse is, or what causes it, or the layout of the ground beneath my feet in regards to a model or map, then I can't really answer that question because I don't know many of the different factors in regards to the question they're being asked. However, there is a positive assertion from their side that they're rocks and that they're orbiting and that they're spheres. There's quite a few positive assertions in regards to their modelling of a reification. And Adam's just pointed out a few faults with that. So I would say that this is obviously an insecurity problem. This is why number 1's in play, because they're insecure with their model and how it shouldn't work with what they claim an eclipse is, with models of rocks in the sky falling around other rocks when you bend a conceptual medium and all that crap. So it seems like maybe they should be answering their own question. With the current heliocentric rhetoric, any evidence that you can have a lunar eclipse on the heliocentric model?
Right, and let's not mention a Selenelian eclipse.
Oh, very good point.
Can I ask Adam a question if he comes off mute?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Adam. So when this was on the lunar eclipse, I believe the topic, but when it's a solar eclipse and the one we had here in North America, they said cast a 70-mile, what was it, totality or whatever they called it. So obviously a shadow can't be smaller than the object, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so in both ways, it disproves what they're saying, because obviously that shadow, when it's a solar eclipse, would be wider than 70 miles. And then what you're saying, the Earth shadowing the moon would be so large that the curvature would seem like a straight line.
We tend to have.
Cool. Move on to number 2.
Guys, I've got to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Number 2, hidden from the bottom up over a flat surface.
Hang on. I'm not sure that we haven't actually answered the question. The question they've asked is it possible on a flat Earth?
Yeah, it happens.
Is it possible on all Earth?
Yes. So what this does is it's a burden of proof reversal fallacy. So when someone comes in and makes an assertion here, we challenge them to back their claim. So just out of interest, who here is making claims about eclipses?
Nobody.
I claim it's a light phenomena.
Who's making a positive claim in regards to the rest of the nature of reality with eclipses? Anybody here?
No.
Sean Hawkins.
John Hawkins? Isn't he a globehead?
Yeah, he's a moron.
But what I'm saying, my point was that the positive assertion in this regard is from them, with their model. So other than offering up a false dichotomy, if they're saying FE, F.E, is actually on your reification fallacy that you foist upon us when giving us a false dichotomy model, that's what they mean by FE, then I couldn't give a shit. I'm not making any claims in that regard. So, no, maybe make your claim about what you feel the eclipse proves for your reification of a sphere model in bending space-time a concept and all that crap. That was my point. I'm not making claims in that regard. If they want to make a claim about what the lunar eclipse was, we'll pull that assertion apart. But we're not making claims in that regard, as far as I'm aware, to have to undo their challenge. We haven't made a claim. Who cares? Moving
Yeah,
on,
but they're
number
not.
2.
Yeah, they are asking us to explain how it's possible.
On a flat Earth model, if that's what that means, with clarity.
Yeah, and still assuming that they're all physical objects in specific locations. Also.
Right. That, again, I gave that clarity. On a azimuthal equidistant projection with little balls of projected light above them at set distances. Well, that's not us here, is it? I mean, don't get me wrong, globeheads. I'd be all behind you when there's other flat earthers making this kind of nonsense reification fallacy, where they assert that they've got a model of where we live and somehow it translates to the twinkly lights in the sky and what they do. I mean, you pummel those idiots all day long, those morons with models who reify them into the earth that we live on. I certainly don't do that. You do it though, don't you, globeheads? It's called the heliocentric model. And it's got things like gravity, bending of conceptual mediums, giving rise to non-forces. These sorts of nonsenses are the reification of your world. And you make positive claims about things like eclipses when you reify models. Now, for all the other dicks, my point, again, slight supplementary point, all the dicks on our side, if you want to call it that, of Flat Earth who do the same thing, you pummel those idiots all day long. Now, if you're pummeling them for reifying a model, I'll be chuckling along with you, then pointing out afterwards, just to stick the knife in your backs, that you do the exact same thing, don't you now? Reify a model and say that that's where the world is at? And that's what it's doing because your model does that? No, but we don't do that here. So then maybe that's for someone else. I don't know. Maybe it's definitely not for us though.
I agree with that.
Adam, try your mic again. Last time it
I'm
was
good.
low.
Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're good now.
No,
So
just
Ranty,
call that, guys.
when we discussed this morning, Ranty said that he had a lot to say about this number 2, but it didn't go down well.
It didn't go down well at all. Let me just drag this across so you guys can see this. So essentially, this was what I actually drew because I was discussing this with Rumpus. Rumpus came in with this, these questions, right? So I saw question 2 and I said, I think I can answer that. So the question as it's formed, hang on, let me just minimize that so we can see what the question is.
Ramsey, let me just say that this is the reason why I joined the other day, to address this point, and Rumpus admitted he was just going to interrupt me. And I was like, well, okay, I'm out of here then. See ya.
Did Rumpus make this
Wait,
list?
so this is a Rumpus list?
Yeah.
Rumpus and Dean came in and presented this as their globe Earth counterclaims to the flat Earth
Housekeeping. That's adorable.
So I said, I think I can answer question 2. So when I'd finished, Rumpus really didn't like it because I actually answered his question perfectly well, described how it would be perfectly possible to answer that question, but he didn't like that. He then wanted me to answer it on every single possible variable. He wanted me to attest it on wind turbines and all kinds of stuff. So essentially, even though I proved that that question could be answered, he didn't like it at all. And he screamed and he kicked and he cried foul. He said, what was it he said? He said, you're cherry picking a set of circumstances that would allow this to happen.
Says him with the R value. Cherry picking? What about presupposing the Earth's a sphere in your calculation, the very thing you're trying to prove? What about begging the question fallacy, Rumpus, you moron? Anyway, I don't know. If you want to go through it, I'm hoping we can elaborate that a little bit more when we come to cover this on Switch Around
How can
Monday.
you call cherry picking when it is literally an open question? Do you have any evidence for this?
Exactly. Any. Yeah, he provided some. Well, that's not all encompassing. Yeah, right, whatever. Yeah, so every single example that you give, right, Ranty, you could find an example where they've called it R.
Yeah,
they've got a nice list. Shout out to Tim Osman for compiling the list of everything they just call R. Can we move on to question 3? I know you probably want to expand on this for an hour, but
shout out retracted.
It would take me 2 minutes to just explain it.
Fine, go ahead.
Okay, so I basically said, look, the human eyeball has the human eye has a resolution of 0.02 degrees. Anything below that, you can't see it. So if you had an eyeball on a flat surface at and a human being at 3 miles away, the angular resolution of that human would be 0.02 degrees. Essentially, your eyeball would not be able to see it because the human would be too small. And just to demonstrate that, that would be an angle of 0.02 degrees over the distance of 3 miles. They then was obfuscating a few points about that, and then they also said, well, okay, this is a diagram, but what happens on surfaces? You know, if you look across a tarmac surface or a car roof or anything like that, you see a heat transfer between the surface and the air above. It's a layer of warmer air that causes distortion. So if you place that there too, that will fall in the 0.02 degree angle that you're trying to see that human at, and you wouldn't be able to see through it. And they screamed and they admitted that, okay, I had proved the point, but they weren't happy with that. They wanted me to then go on to things like wind turbines and stuff like this. And I'm like, no, I'm answering this question as it's read, as it's put. They then decided to change the question and said that they wanted to redo the question. I said, no, I'm not happy with that. I want, come back another time with your new questions. But if you, as it's written, I've answered it. They weren't happy.
Right.
Of course they're not happy, because when we ask our questions, they don't have answers for them. That's the problem.
So let's just get on to the next malformed question.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. A lot of these are malformed questions. So, as said, evidence of angular change of sun/moon at 50% in 1 day.
Yeah, let's just address this in a couple of sentences.
Why
well, in the
would
form
that
of a
need to
question.
be?
What does angular size mean? Is that like actual size?
Nah, I think it's more like not actual.
Not actual size. So to rephrase it slightly, the question is evidence of not actual size change of the sun, moon 50%, open brackets 1 day. Any evidence of not actual size of the sun changing? Is that what you want? Not actual size change. Are you retarded, Rumpus? Because who gives a crap about the not actual size changing? It's the not actual size. You moron. I think you should really try and formulate actual questions as opposed to these malformed garbage. Let's move on to number 4.
Sorry, did you have something to say about that, Owen?
Yeah, I just wonder how this lack of angular size change is even supposed to disprove a flat Earth. I don't see it.
Oh, it doesn't.
Well, they said,
Or unless they, of course, again assume that the moon and the sun are physical objects traveling over a disk. Literally.
They do.
Right.
That is, yeah.
Dawn's about to tell us that is how we see the world.
So you do see it, Owen. You do see how angular size comes into it.
What's angular size?
I'm not doing your word quizzes. I'm just popping in. Nathan, can I ask you a quick question? Do you mean Tom Sheridan, the Irish pagan magician?
Yes.
Oh, great. I love him. I'm subscribed to him. Cool.
What's angular size?
Okay, see you later.
That was awesome.
Should we move on to number 4?
Later, Dawn.
Anybody else got anything to add on evidence of the not actual size of the sun changing / moon changing 50% in 1 day?
No.
Guess not. Right, okay, so they want evidence on flat Earth of sunsets and sunrise, moonset and moonrise over 1 day using a solar filter over a distance of, say, 200,000 miles. It should change to 0.0175 of the percent of its original size. So they claim.
What would that be?
What has been proven 200,000 miles away?
Before we get to the bits in parentheses, what sort of size is this again? Would this be the actual size of the sun?
It's angular size.
Oh, angular size. That's what that 0.0175% size means. That the angular size, right?
Mm-hmm.
The not actual size. Is this guy really this retarded? I mean, I knew Rumpus was thick. So you're asking us for a not actual size change?
I think he's stuck in a model dichotomy.
It's the same as the last question.
Exactly.
Moving
Question
on.
5. Evidence of a dome and lack of a pressure gradient.
Gas pressure.
Wait, what?
We have a pressure gradient.
What?
Hold on, one at a time. Hold on.
No,
I had
hold
sleeping,
on.
Hold on. I had Sleeping Warrior first, then Chocolate, then Arwen.
Gas pressure is some kind of containment.
Well,
Not necessarily a dome, but who says it's a dome, right? It could be anything.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I was just say, well, evidence of a lack of pressure gradient, but there is a pressure gradient. So how is there
Adam
evidence
just
of a
told
lack
you
of
there
one?
is no gas pressure. Adam said it just a few
No.
minutes ago. What?
No, he didn't. That's a lie.
Dallas, please stop.
I think they're assuming that or if you have a dome, you cannot have a gas pressure gradient. That's what they're suggesting. So what they're asking is
So
evidence.
yeah, but if that's the case, why does the density tower work?
Just for the audience, go ahead, Ranty. Just give clarity to the question.
I think what they're trying to say is that if you had a dome, there wouldn't be the possibility of having a gas pressure gradient.
That's nonsense.
Yeah, but all the gases have got different atomic weights, haven't they? We see density towers work. Fluid dynamics mean that if there was no sun mixing it all up and no hydrogen cycle and no other dynamic cycles that we do endure, then you would. I don't know whether you would or not, but I think that you would get separation of the gases all sat at different levels in the same way that you get the fluids that do, the liquids that do the same.
They wouldn't.
But the sun mixes it all up.
They wouldn't.
Didn't Good Tims for All basically give a demonstration?
I just want to
a
get that
gas
in. Sorry,
pressure
I'm really sorry.
Go ahead, Nathan. Set him straight.
I've got a gas doesn't behave like that, right? It doesn't form layers. Yeah.
Well, it conforms to fluid dynamics, which that does.
Do you know what?
So I don't know how.
Do you know what homogeneous means?
Yeah, of the same kind.
No, it's like a consistency that's the same throughout. That's what homogeneous means. Well, gas is inhomogeneous, the opposite of that.
That's right, but if it was true that they didn't separate, you wouldn't be able to separate sulfur hexafluoride in a fish tank because it would disperse with the atmosphere immediately.
It does. Not immediately. Entropy still takes a hold, but it doesn't disperse immediately. Well, you're slowing down the effects of entropy, but that doesn't mean that entropy isn't taking place, or that it would stay there indefinitely as a layer. That's just simply not the case.
Have Ranty ask his question again, or
Yes,
make his
indeed.
claim again.
Well, yes, if you can give clarity to the question that the Globeheads are asking in their housekeeping questions, just for Quantum Eraser's benefit.
Sorry about that. I got in here late, man. The power's been out all morning here. Go ahead, Ranty. Can you state that again?
So question 5 from the Globe Earth housekeeping questions list for flat Earth is evidence of a dome and lack of a pressure gradient.
Pressure gradient. We have a pressure gradient.
Huey.
Yeah, that's
Huey, can you move everybody
That was
in the
my
after show?
first response.
What he's suggesting is
God.
there can't be a pressure gradient on the flat Earth.
Yeah, that's been covered.
And
We
I don't
have
get
one.
where he gets this.
Yeah.
I think it was Chocolate. I can't remember who. Someone's already said it. We do have one.
Oh my God, we've been going. This is like 3.5 years old. You can't have gas pressure gradients without gas pressure first.
Yeah, right. Delta X.
Adam says there is no gas pressure. It's
No, he didn't. Stop lying about what Adam said. He did not say
Dallas,
that.
if you keep lying, I'm gonna go there and mute you my damn self, bro.
Just lying.
Just stop it.
Yeah, I really
Why
appreciate
won't
someone not
where's Adam
chatting
at?
shit
Adam will
about what
explain
I
it to you.
said. And it's
Talking.
sort of been bollocks to me, David. Yeah, I've got a real problem with that, mate. I'm quite cordial, but don't be a dick. Please don't. put words in my mouth.
Say Adam's
Please
name
don't
again.
come out.
Fuck out of here, bro.
Adam, tell us about this fluid pressure, no gas pressure. Tell us.
Yeah, he was using an example with fluid pressure and not gas pressure. He did not say there is not gas pressure. That's ludicrous.
Father,
There's
okay?
no gas pressure. We were talking about blood pressure, David, and unless your fucking blood is gas, mate, I don't know what you're on about.
Mine's getting there.
Please, respect.
Sir, I asked you a specific question. How do we have gas pressure? How do we have gas pressure on this earth, sir? I asked you that. You said it's not. It's fluid pressure. That's what you said. I asked you.
No, he
specific
didn't.
question.
No, that's because you red herringed him in the middle of his explanation about blood pressure, idiot.
Right. Anyway, Ranty, you're getting totally sabotaged here. This has
Well,
been pretty
now Adam's blood pressure is up and Job has lost his cool. So be quiet there, Double D.
Well, really, I'd like to hear Quantum Eraser's response to this.
Response to what?
So,
Question 5.
read it again.
I already told you.
Evidence of a dome and a lack of a pressure gradient.
I already told you the first one. You can't have gas pressure gradients without gas pressure first, right? So, and you have to have a container to have gas pressure. It's a consequent, necessary antecedent game.
Very concise. Well said. Moving on. Number 6. I'm being sincere. That wasn't said in anything.
Adam, do you agree? Adam?
What's been going on this morning?
I clearly didn't say that with enough enthusiasm. Very concise, John. Getting better all the time. I mean, if I heard that as an audience, I'd be bowled over. Now, that almost sounded condescending. I don't know how to do it now. I mean it sincerely, John.
What's been going on this morning, guys?
We're doing...
Adam, answer the question.
I'm about to, but you interrupted me.
Go on then, Adam. Feel free.
He's done.
I would hate within the question to be strawmanned into something such as a dome, which is obviously what most ballers want to ascribe to us. My honest answer is I have no idea, but for every little bit of experimental science there is, you can't have gas pressure without a container. You draw your own conclusions from that, but unless you're going to deny every other bit of physics that is demonstrable, then draw your own conclusion. But you need
Adam goes quiet when what I would say is, well, then you're a fucking moron, piss off, or something to that effect. Adam just goes silent when there could be an ad hom put on to the end. Very, very cordial. You've got a very good way of soothing my blood pressure, Adam. I don't know how you do it, but you do.
Just the fact that David got Adam to actually curse like that. Yeah. I'm good on David.
Well, typically there's a pause. I know he did say it that way. That's why I bailed him out with a little explanation of how cordial he typically is. Anyway,
that wasn't necessarily triggered. It was just expressing the point of how frustrating it is to have to listen to somebody misrepresent me. And my apologies for that.
That pisses you off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would piss anybody off, Adam.
Let's say
that's perfectly reasonable.
Here's this
let's say
wingman
it's
coming
not
in to save the day.
Oh God, Spurs, go ahead.
Let's say, for example, it's not gas pressure. What does that affect? What does that change in your paradigm?
What you're saying is, if we accept your paradigm, what would it change in ours?
No, I'm saying to Adam, like he's saying, this is known physics. This is what how we understand it, it thus far. But if it's not that, what does it what does it change to you, to the paradigm, to science, or what we know?
Well, it means it's unicorns.
Good answer. But then it means it's yeah. But then that's the same. This is the same issue. But what I'm hearing from you is the same issue from the Ball Earthers. They don't want a special creation that we can't figure out. They want to be able to figure it out. Now you're saying I figured it out. I'm saying that. Well, have you figured it out?
No, that's not. That's not correct.
Hold on, Arwin and Spurs. It's supposed to just be Adam and Spurs. Sorry, Arwin.
Yeah, so I mean, again, so going back to the point of
well, you'd summarise Spurs. Hopefully, Adam will get response time as well.
Yeah, sure. Am I able to? Is he talking or?
No, I'm just waiting for you to make the point.
Oh yeah. So I'm going to wrap it up. Yeah, I'm not going to take long. What I'm hearing, as I was just hearing you saying about this physics and it's what we know. It's the same argument I'm hearing from the Ball Earthers. They have this need to know something that they didn't create or design. So they studied the world and they say we figured it out. You're saying that we studied the world and we figured it out. If we haven't figured it out, then it's fairies, like you're saying. Well, that's just it. It is a creation that we don't understand, in my opinion. Adam.
Absolutely fine with that final statement, Spurs. What I'm saying, and I've said it a couple of times, is there's no need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's lots of experiment which proves that you can't have pressure without a container. Now, for the ballers, if they can demonstrate that to me, then I would be prepared to reconsider my viewpoint. And the same with regards to what you're presenting, with regards to a complete abandonment of all established experiment. If you can present some experiment that proves your point or helps support your viewpoint, then I'd be happy to consider it. But at the moment, honestly, there's just this idea that you've got in your head, which when we explore it, every single time it seems to be destroyed frankly, and shown to be conceptual nonsense, or in a lot of cases, a lack of understanding. A bit like what you brought today with the suction cups in a vacuum. If you've got that bit of a better understanding, then the points that you're thinking, aha, yeah, are actually quite explainable with proven experiment.
Fantastic. That's what I'm looking for. Is that where I don't understand, you say, well, look, this is actually what's happening.
While everyone's getting moved to the after show room, I'll just summarise this question again for you, Adam, because I don't think you addressed it. He's saying, what would change in your world? Sorry, Spurs. I'm just summarising your point while everyone was moved rooms. So Spurs is asking, what would change in your world if the understanding about gas law was incorrect? That's his question, paraphrased slightly better, I hope, to lead you.
Okay.
Well, that would require on what the misunderstanding was, wouldn't it? You would have to have a clear exemplar as to point out what particular part of gas laws and gas behaviour is incorrect first. Then you could reconsider from there as to how, and you're not. But as I said first, I'm yet to see any evidence brought that contradicts my understanding. What I'm seeing a lot of is evidence that's brought which presupposes something based on a misunderstanding of what's occurring. And those suction cups are a great example today. We're trying to ascribe some other form of new model of physics to something because we've misdiagnosed what's actually going off there. Yeah. And there is plenty of sufficient physics.
What I think you've done, I think what you've done is calculated laws for inside a container. I mean, do you know how gases would work in an open system? Is there a law for that? Because what you're describing is in a container.
Yeah, they're dispersed.
Well, the laws of entropy would kick in, wouldn't they? So,
Adam, if
I don't know. Again,
can I just take the reins back for a second? Sorry, Spurs, to interrupt. Spurs, I thought your question was pertinent, which is why I've repeated it to Adam, and I'm going to repeat it again. So he's saying if your understanding of gas law changes, and let's say for the sake of argument that someone rearranges the description of how a gas law works that seems to contradict a current description, just for the sake of this argument, Adam, that happens. An explanation of what is happening in gas law changes, just for this example. What would change in our world?
Oh, sod all.
Right.
The thing with knowledge is it's transient, isn't it? Knowledge isn't wisdom. Knowledge is just an accumulation of what we know right now. So if we learn more, and that enables us to. The thing with science, though, is what I would say is we have scientific evidence of this. So it would be very odd for a scientific discovery to be undone. We've already proved cause and effect. So that's probably why I'm struggling a little bit. Maybe you could add to it.
I think you are struggling because I think the reason why you're struggling, Adam, is because this question to a ball earther. If you ask an atheist,
I'm not really understanding
an
the question, Spurs, if I'm being honest, mate.
If you ask an evolution,
Nathan helping me, I'm not
he's
understanding
not confused.
The point.
I didn't interrupt him, Adam, to say that, but yes, fair call.
The point was that if you ask a ball earther, okay, so the Earth's not a ball, evolution is not true. How does this change your world? And an honest person would start considering, well, it must be a creation. There's a creator. Right now, they don't believe in a creator. So flat Earth to them would change everything in their understanding. So you're saying the way you're reacting about, well, physics. Oh, we understand physics. So this would change something in your viewpoint because now you feel you know something, but now it's wrong. It's not what you thought. You said green pixies. So now this is what I'm talking about. This would change everything that you thought you knew. Just like the ball earthers, they thought they knew evolution, Big Bang, and now it's not that. Well, then they have to change their whole view now, don't they? They have to wonder, well, what's going on? What is this? Is it green pixies?
You haven't provided an alternative. You just try to scratch away gas pressure and explain things poorly. You haven't actually provided anything to replace the concept with. You're just
I don't think he needs to
away
provide
in reality.
Correct. Sorry, can you repeat that, please, Sleeping Warrior?
He doesn't need to provide a replacement. He just needs to show that it might not be the way it is based on the evidence he presents.
Spot on.
That's
Then
going to be
present the
replacement.
evidence.
There's a
present the
concept now.
evidence.
You can't just take it away and not replace it because things no longer make any sense.
Oh, how wrong you are. Oh, let me just correct that argument. Oh, no.
I don't agree with that argument.
No. I just want to say what Anthony said, but slightly differently. I don't need to give you anything to take my pants down and take a giant steaming dump on your religion based on its inaccuracies or its lack of evidence, and I can walk away laughing.
Exactly. So I can show you it's not pressure, and then you can have your belief that it is. It doesn't matter, does it? If I can demonstrate that I've removed the pressure, the thing's still stuck. Now you're saying, oh, it could be green pixies. Well, that's like what Rumpus says. Well, that's
Spurs, did you
anyone.
not listen to the example I gave you? Tony, can you put on your bell jar experiment where you hold water held up there? And if Spurs believes that it's the external atmospheric pressure that's holding that water up there, then that's his misconception of what's going off.
Yeah, but that was the explanation the ballers gave me. It was the external gas pressure pushing up.
Can you show it, Anthony? And then Josh can screen share it.
It'll take me a while to find it. Hang on.
Right. If you were to put a larger volume of air in there, then the sufficient weight of the water would be sufficient to expand it a very small amount. But because you've got a very contained amount of air, then to expand it past the point of where the meniscus forms at the bottom of the bell jar requires a much greater force than the weight of the water can exert. That's why it stays up there, not because air on the outside is particularly pushing it up. It does have a cumulative effect. The main thing that's holding it in there is the inability for the weight of the water to expand that gas that's at the top of the jar. But you're ascribing it to just external atmospheric pressure pushing up and holding the water there. Well, that isn't the case in the way it's understood. Now, just because some ignorant ballers think they know everything about everything, and they say to you, it's outside atmospheric pressure, Spurs, it doesn't mean you have to believe them and take that as the actual correct understanding, and off you go along that journey. It's not a correct understanding.
Yeah, I haven't. Which experiment are you talking about, Anthony? I haven't seen this. Have I seen this?
The bell jar one.
Exactly the same as yours that you've done today. It's the exact same principle. It's the lack of sufficient force to expand the gas.
You keep doing it, Spurs. Every time he gets to the most concise summary of how it's analogous to your suction cups, you interrupt him. You did it last time.
There's a slight lag. I'm on Discord now.
But you're interrupting while he's in the middle of a sentence. So it's not because of lag. You are so good at using their excuses. You've spent too much time with the ballers, Spurs. Just please, Adam. I know it's a third attempt, but I really want you to get to the concise summary of the analogous comparison between the bell jar and the suction cups. Please, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so when we've got that volume of air at the top of the bell jar, which is magically holding that water there, yes, some of the atmospheric pressure is pushing up on the water, but that isn't what is keeping the water in place. What is keeping the water in place is the inability for the volume of water to pull down and expand that air and allow anything in the side. So it's the air pressure inside and the natural resistance that a gas will give to resist the expansion that's trying to be forced upon it. And unless you can put a bigger pressure, a bigger force on there, it won't expand, or unless you can upset the equilibrium, which is what tends to happen. Now, that same thing is happening in your vacuum chamber. Now, a lot of them fall off because the seal isn't perfect enough, and the vacuum itself is sufficient to cause microsuction, which will allow through the imperceivable bits of what, when there is sufficient air pressure in the chamber, it will hold there because the rate of leak isn't sufficient. But as soon as you turn it into a vacuum, then those small, tiny little holes in the seal is sufficient to allow air to exchange and the cup will fall off. Some of them have an absolutely perfect seal and you can start to put weight upon them. Then when you reach a certain level of force, okay, they will fall off. Now, within your experiment, you did see that actually the smallest suction cup had the ability to hold the greatest weight in this case, and that's because the integrity of the seal is the smallest. The circumference of that small one is a very, very, very small compared to the larger one. So there's less chance of there being any break in seal integrity. But that's why it will hold, because the force required to pull it off still is the force required to expand the gas first and foremost. That's why it's got a tug ability. You're trying to tug that gas and make it occupy a larger volume, which it doesn't want to do. Does that make sense, Bert?
I understand what you're saying. It's completely incorrect, but I mean, again, it's just your view, your understanding of how gases work.
Wow.
Well, okay. Can we move
Adam,
on?
Adam, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Could we move on to question 6?
I was going to say,
That's what's known as a hand wave dismissal.
Just for the record. Hold on. Just for the record, because we had the housekeeping questions from the ballers up for quite a significant period of that little section. So most of that wasn't in direct address to the last question, but we've moved past that. We'll move on to number 6.
Proof gravitational force, scales / accelerometer. Now, I think what they've done here is they've sort of like malformed the questions and are now sort of like coming into their proofs. But this is the questions as it was written. So what do you think?
What's gravity?
Orbits, begging the question. Geostationary.
Which question are we on here?
Begging the
6?
question also.
6, yeah.
I like that.
So what's gravity?
It's not a force, is it?
Ballbusters, Saturday. Gravity. Be there or be sphere.
Be here or be sphere.
Sorry about that.
You've got to
John, make like a tree and get out of here.
Could I just
You've got to tell them where here is, right?
You got to tell them where here is.
Yeah, so on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, be here or be sphere.
Thanks, I'll write that down.
No worries.
Which technically would it be here?
This is important stuff. This is important. You've got to know how to plug properly. People need to know where, when,
The name Ballbusters is really gay, so you should change it.
Really gay? Is that you projecting a bit of
Yeah,
homosexuality onto us there, Don?
Ballbusters, like QEs. Sounds well gay.
On the Quantum Eraser channel this Saturday, 8 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. US Central is Gravity on the Quantum Eraser channel. Be there.
Be here. Be here. Be here. Or
we're not here. We're there.
No, you're not, because you've just said on the Quantum Eraser channel, be here or be sphere, as in on the quantum.
Yeah, but I'm not on the Quantum Eraser channel now.
Doesn't matter. It's just semantics.
I'm with you, John. Be there. Be there.
Anyway, Ranty's desperately trying to get these questions rattled through and he's just not succeeding. Right, I didn't understand how any of the replies related to the question. GPS satellites, in brackets, orbital, / media satellites, in brackets, geostationary. And I'm just going to add, before anybody tries to pummel whatever the question is, which isn't really a question, there's no question mark. I like that word, geostationary. That's a good word, that. Very telling.
Well, it's begging the question because they're saying orbital, and then so they're already telling you we're a sphere and it's outside going 17,500 miles an hour.
Right, assuming orbits. So what is this question? Can you paraphrase it, Ranty, or is you don't have to?
It's hard to figure it out, but I think what they're trying to say is that we know in the globe model that there are orbital satellites. Can you disprove that? I think that's how I'm reading into these.
What I'd quite like from them, right? Hopefully they'll watch this, some of the fundies, that is, and they'll realise that, as opposed to, let's just pick a random one, any evidence of a self-perpetuating, that's the description of what the thing's doing, molten iron core, the very specifics of the thing we're asking for, and then where it is at the centre of a presupposed, the begging the question fallacy put in for a laugh into the question, spherical Earth. So that's a question that's got a question mark at it at the end. It's pertinent because they've got a positive assertion that there's a molten iron core at the centre of their presupposition of a sphere Earth. So it's a very pertinent, carefully phrased, obvious question that can have a question mark at the end of it, right? This, number 7, if this is how it was written or presented to you, Ranty, I don't know if that's the case. Is this your formatting, or is this what was actually given to you?
This was sent to me as a document from them after we'd discussed it on my channel.
I see.
I asked for the document that they used, and they sent me this as a PDF.
Okay, right. GPS satellites, open brackets orbital, / media satellites, open brackets geostationary. That's not even a question. It's not a statement. It doesn't mean anything. Am I wrong in this assessment of this sentence? Not even a sentence.
They definitely need to tighten up their questions.
What the hell does this mean?
I think, Nathan, does it mean, I think it's just a statement of their faith, isn't it? It's look, it has to be able, because some satellites go around and some stay relative to the Earth in this and hold the same position with no proof other than that just seems to be a statement of their beliefs as opposed to a question as to of any form that's asking us to prove anything or answer anything. It just seems a statement of belief.
It's right, yeah. It's like saying Jesus died on the cross and rose in 3 days, and that's it. They're not really saying anything that needs responding to.
I see the comparison that it's not, but the comparison Spurs is making is saying that you make a statement and you're like, okay, and what's this? You know, unless he straps on at the end that you must give your soul to Jesus as a result of this statement. It's like, okay, you've just made a statement about something. You're not asking me to disagree or agree. You're just making a statement. Well, the statements in this case come along with a really neatly packaged, bracketed presupposition that they hold about their statement. That's handy, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's malformed, the question.
No, we need eyewitnesses.
They want us,
for what this.
They want us to beg their question for them.
I see.
Gosh, you just can't stop talking.
Oh, well, but he's right though, 10th man. He's being poignant for a change.
I might have an answer. Some balloons go around the plane, and some balloons stay hovering over the point.
If that's the question being asked, it might not be. We just don't know. We may never know. We'll find out.
Can you repeat the question again?
Do you want to read it? Number 7. You go ahead, Ranty.
It just says GPS satellites in brackets orbital / media satellites in brackets geostationary.
That's not a question.
That's what I said. Should we move on? We might get more clarity on this going forward. We might be laughing unjustly. It might just be a shorthand. You know, it might be just the ramblings of a madman. We may find out.
Okay, so question number 8. Horizon dip angle with elevation and distance / over water in brackets using tubes water.
Oh, again, we're going to need more clarity in terms. What's the horizon now?
What is it?
What's the horizon exactly? Going to get any higher? What's the horizon now?
This is the one where people use water as level, and what they do is they take the observation angle from the eye of the observer and try to line them up, which is a false equivalent because it doesn't take into account perspective. Whereas if they were to take the Muppet vision angle and actually go to Muppet vision, then they would see that their things do line up because perspective is removed from the Muppet vision. But it's created, and therefore it creates but via perspective, just because you've got a water tube that's 10 meters long and giving you a water level reading, that thing is still 10 meters further away. So if it was 1 meter high, is it 1 meter high, 10 meters away for the observer? No. But they use that as a false equivalent.
What a bunch of lying. What a bunch of lies.
That was excellent. That was really concise. Just for the audience's benefit, Ranty, can you just stick up your previous example of Muppet vision? And while you're doing that, Muppet vision, also known as the orthographic side elevation view. So this now on screen is what was kindly referred to by Adam as Muppet vision. You know, the vision where you see the side of your own head. Yeah, not reality. We have perspective. Well said, Anthony. Not Anthony, Adam.
Tubes up in that position and take a side picture of your water tubes there, and everything will be flat as a pancake. But if you try and take it from the observer's view, looking down the length, then you will, of course, invoke perspective.
A bit like lampposts, looking at
Indeed.
lampposts.
Exactly.
Getting really concise with this. Let's move on. That was really good.
Okay, so next question.
Hold on, we got some rumblings from Discord. Go on, Dawn.
That's all lies. You guys lie about perspective. It's disgusting.
Okay, I'm just going to concede. Fair enough. Perspective's not real. We're liars. Okay, moving on.
Oh. Right. Prof, that longitude doesn't converge in the south. In brackets, flight times and speed.
What's longitude? Hold on, how high can I go? What's longitude?
Begging the question.
Now? What's longitude? What's a longitude now? Can I see a picture of one?
These guys are freaking ignorant monks, man. Who wrote these? Did they send this to the literate university to write them for them?
What's
I can't
prof?
wait to get to number 10.
What's prof?
The Rumpus and Dean wrote these, the two of them.
What's prof?
Dean!
Hold on, I just want to know what the first word means. If I'm being dumb, fine. Prof, that longitude doesn't converge in the south. What's prof?
Professor?
Well, I think the answer for that one is that the lack of evidence showing that two observers in the south looking south at the same time see the same stars but rotated. That missing evidence would be the reason why, or the proof that he's asking for.
A proof?
No, they said longitude lines. Where do longitude lines converge other than on a frigging model or a map?
They don't. They're conceptual. They don't really exist. But why is it with these concepts they like to use? I don't get it.
I think they need to be tightened up, these questions, for sure.
They definitely need to be. Well, some of them need to be questions.
They just need to tighten the hell up altogether.
Well, they're all based on begging the question.
Yeah, where is the question?
Yeah, that too.
Okay,
we're begging.
Last but no means least.
Last but not least, number 10. Any evidence of same direction star trails on both sides of the equator?
Yeah, all the stars rise due
Right, all stars.
What's the equator now? What's the equator?
Well, yeah, but there's stars.
Timmy. These are the same guys that believe if you leave the rotating surface, you'll still see star trails. That's what they believe.
No. Get to the question. This is a Timmy Clown question. They think in the northern hemiplane, the stars go from east to west, and in the southern hemiplane, they travel from west to east. That's what they think.
I didn't realize that. You are right. That is exactly what they think.
You didn't realize that, Riley?
I didn't realize that's what they thought.
Yeah, bro.
This is
They've
Timmy
been
Clown
saying that.
2015. This is Timmy. Listen, hold on. This is Timmy Clown 2015. I first heard this argument like 3 days after I got into Flat Earth, and I said, what in the world are these people friggin' retarded? Right? So the sun doesn't rise in the east in the southern hemisphere. It rises in the west and sets in the east.
How were they asking in this question? Because I saw this as the star trails question, as in it's just a loose way of not actually formulating and affirming the consequent or using the word hemisphere, but using the implication with the word equator, which is again it's that's what's the word? Conceptual. But that's not my point when I say I read this differently. I thought this was a ham-handed way of getting around the formulation of if the Earth is a sphere, we will observe star trails in the northern and southern hemisphere in whatever, circular motions. And we do observe these star trails in the northern and southern hemisphere, therefore the Earth's a sphere. I thought it was just a way of formulating out that. So I'll read it again.
Nope.
Okay, no, I think you're right. I've reread it several times, and I think you're right. I'm wrong. It's not as smart as I'm giving it credit for. It's just a crap way of saying the stars rotate in different directions when they don't.
They're just bringing bringing up the point that your south on your flat Earth is messy and wrong and doesn't get explained.
What's my flat Earth? What's my flat Earth? What do you mean, my flat Earth?
I agree. They're saying that they think the stars spin in different directions on the sun rises in the west and sets in the east.
I find that hard to believe from Rumpus if this is where this came from, because he's had plenty of pictorial examples of the star trails on the equator, and they're obviously going in the same direction.
Rumpus.
Yeah.
He should be institutionalized. If this came from him, why are you even answering the questions?
Him and someone else. Who was it that formulated this, Ranty? Sorry, 10th man.
No, I was going to... Well, go ahead, Ranty.
He said Dean.
Dean,
that retard, the toe tag retard. Right? Dean was on Ranty's show the other day.
Both
Ranty,
of them, Rumpus and
hold on a
Dean,
second.
You hold on, damn it! I'm telling you.
they're trying to give you the answer of who came up with this list. Dean and
Dean presented it. No, sorry, hang on. No,
God.
Rumpus presented it, but Dean was the writer or the author of it.
Yeah, the toe tag Dean. He's the one, Ranty, you had him on a show. I don't know why you're not holding this retard's feet to the fire, because you brought up the 18-mile observation. He's the retard that came on here and with his model showed that it couldn't work. He had no answers. Then he disappeared for like 3 months and then popped up on the circuit, the ball-tard retard circuit.
Yeah. He showed that. Do you remember it, Ranty? You need to remember that about him.
Yeah, Stingray, Dean. He's a toe tag. He's the guy.
Yeah, QE has a better memory than me. But yeah, now that you mention it.
Ranty, it was when he was demonstrating the buildings on your Barrow observation, where you can see the buildings when there's no mirage there, but when there's a mirage there, it blots them out.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
He modelled it and he said he couldn't get it to work, and you were like, there you go.
Yeah, I remember now. But I didn't realise it was him.
Yeah,
you need to remember it
him.
and pin it against
Deed retard toe tag.
So
he's had something else to say. Chocolate, what did he have to say about how space-time was validated?
Space-time was proven and has been measured using nuclear forces. Yeah.
Is that really what he said?
Was that Chinese or Russian nuclear forces?
I don't know, man. That's what I heard him say on some hangout, one of Jose's things, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" I turned it off.
You know when Tony will say that, right? You know, we'll in the background, we'll instantly agree with no evidence whatsoever. Farmer's boy, he'll go, "Yeah, that's what they did," and he has no idea what he's talking about. He'll just agree with him because
I think that's exactly who backed him up on that. I think that was him. He was just like, yeah, it's been proven. And then they just moved on to whatever they were talking about. I was just like, okay, this is when I turned this off.
10th man's been trying to get a word in edgeways for about 5 minutes.
Okay. Dawn, the other day, said, when I asked him, what keeps him a baller? He says 2 things. Hard sunsets on the horizon and southern star movements. John just said, based on question 10, that in order for them to have this happen, the sun and everything would have to rise from the west and move to the east below the equator. And the opposite would have to happen above the equator. So I'm wondering what Dawn wants to say now.
I don't know, dude. I don't quite understand the question.
Maybe I could just.
So, Dawn, does the sun rise in the east, in the southern hemisphere, hemiplane?
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember.
Right. Does the same thing happen in the northern hemisphere?
What about in the northern hemisphere, Dawn?
Yeah, I think it's east, isn't it?
Right. So that would be the same direction in both hemiplanes, right?
Yes.
So that would mean everything's moving in the same direction, right?
Everything. What do you mean, everything?
All the celestial bodies?
You mean like all going round in one sphere rotation?
You know what a celestial body is, right, Dawn?
One rotational direction down the axis.
Not on the axis. based on the observer's position, orientation.
Well, if you count the sun and moon out, all the stars in the sky appear to go round in a rotational sphere around Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, but the issue is the direction that you guys claim is opposing.
Yeah, it's an opposing rotational direction, not an actual.
Yeah, but it's caused by the observer that's facing north one way and south the other way. It's not caused by opposing circles.
Yeah, two opposite rotational directions.
Yeah, because the observer's facing north one side and then south the other.
That's the contradiction. That's what you need to highlight. Dawn, hold on. That's the contradiction. So you're saying opposite directions, Dawn?
Opposite rotational directions.
Yeah, so Chocolate's just got you to concede they all do the same direction, but now you're saying opposite direction. As the penny drops, he starts interrupting me. So between Anthony and Chocolate, they've got you to say it's two completely different opposing positions, Dawn.
I can't even finish the sentence. You keep rumpusing.
You finished. You've summarised and said that they're doing opposite directions, having been taken by the hand by Chocolate and got to concede that they all do the same thing.
You started being a fundy zealot and
What? Guys on the panel, correct me if I am wrong. You've taken Dawn by the hand and pointed out his contradictory position that he's holding.
Yeah, Dawn, you need to listen, Dawn. Your problem is that you think that the stars are rotated in opposite directions on different sides of the world, correct? Come on, Dawn.
Direction of a sphere on an axis.
He didn't listen to a word you said.
For whatever reason, I dropped the answer. I didn't hear your answer. So let me just re-ask the question. Your position is that you think the stars are rotated in opposing directions on different sides of the world, correct?
No, I think they appear to rotate in two opposite rotational directions in the sky.
Oh, yes. Appear.
One,
so that means they don't.
You agreed with Chocolate when he said that all the stars rise due east and set due west, correct?
Yes.
Well, that's two different.
And then when I get me on this point,
and then when Dawn, let me just try again with you, Dawn. Dawn. Hopefully the answer. Dawn. Hopefully the answer to what I now point out to you won't be you're a fundy. Dawn.
What was the first thing you think I looked up?
Oh, he's squirming. I've got to shut him up to make the conclusion.
Let me finish, Nathan.
Go ahead.
If you agreed with Chocolate that all the stars rise due east and set due west for both observers, the change that makes it one way over the other is when the observer changes from looking north to south or south to north, depending on what part of the map is on.
It doesn't change the direction of rotation.
Rotational directions, suggesting one rotational sphere around us.
No, it doesn't.
This is reality. This is what everyone believes, except you.
Believes? Why would you need to believe it? It's
I'm
moronic.
not talking about belief.
That's what we do when we want to understand things. We look at people's evidence and then we believe it.
Hey, Dawn, I just want to try once more with him.
The evidence of looking in the sky every single night, John.
Dawn,
That
look in the sky, and you see them all rising in the east and setting in the west.
Yeah, Nathan, I just told you you won't get me on this point. What was the first thing I looked up
finished.
2.5 years
You're
ago?
not letting me interrupt, Fundy Zealot.
You're
not letting me finish. You just keep interrupting.
Because you're wasting your time saying it again.
Talking to a Fundy? Talking to a Fundy?
You
You
might
won't
trip your
listen.
retard audience up on this,
Yeah,
but
now
you
you're
won't
ad
trip
homing
me
the hell
up.
out of me. I'll try once more.
Please let me finish.
You've stated your position.
Please don't waste your time.
What, talking to a Fundy? Yeah, it's really difficult, I know. So, your
Hey,
position...
Don, have you ever noticed the parallax in an airplane?
What asshole? That's Zanuck being an
Hold on a
asshole. Well,
second, let
Fundy's
Nathan
Zanuck
finish.
asshole. Yeah, I'm trying to, for the third, maybe fourth or fifth time, get him to concede that he's got two different positions. And you just won't let me because he's a Fundy. Highlighting the fact that you're holding contrary positions obviously isn't fun for you, Dawn. I don't mind. I'm waiting to round the show out, but I've kept the show open with my kids now running around because they want to take over the lounge, just so we can get to the stage where at least once I point out both, that's two, positions that you hold. Now I'm going to do it at least once. I don't care how long it takes me.
Okay.
Right. Number one position. They all travel in the same
Hang on,
direction.
do I get
No, he's not going to let me.
that's
Fundy
wrong
squirming.
at the end? Or are you just
Fundy
gonna round the show
squirming.
out after
He
you-
won't let me.
Don,
Fundy.
please.
He's a Fundy.
I
He's
don't
squirming.
trust you because you'll round the show out.
Don, you
mate.
can't
You're
just let him finish, Don.
Squirm for me. I'm
You'll
enjoying
have to
this.
mute me if you want to round the show out and lie some more.
Sorry, Dawn. I'm taking an element of
me.
sadistic pleasure from
Mute
this,
me
Dawn.
and then speak
So
your
keep
nonsense
going.
to your audience.
It's all good. It's all good, Dawn. I'm taking a certain degree of sadistic pleasure out of your
mute me and
squirming.
then preach your nonsense.
All right, keep
It's
it up,
time to
Fundy.
do that,
Keep
mate.
it up. I can do this all day.
4 more hours.
Yeah. There might be
Yeah.
of Dawn not listening to his 2 positions that he holds. We might get 1 in. Let's try the second position first this time. So, position number 1 that you hold, we'll hopefully get both in. That the stars rotate in opposite directions. That's the first position that
wrong
you hold.
already. You only said 6 words. You're wrong already.
Oh, so you
Wrong,
don't believe that?
Lying. Wrong. Lying.
That's
wrong,
the
lying.
example in the housekeeping question. So you disagree with Rumpus's housekeeping question then?
Disgusting behaviour again.
I'm just trying to ask a question, but the Fundy's a bit triggered.
Absolutely disgusting. Fundy zealotry. Lies.
From you, yeah.
Come on, Dawn.
So given, can I not be rumpus by the panel? I really want to concisely round this point out. It's not going to happen with everybody rumpusing me. Dawn I can cope with him saying liar and Fundy over the top of me, while I still, for about the 7th time, don't get to make a single concise summary of the 2 positions that he holds. He won't even let me make a summary of the fact that he's rumpusing the summary. He won't even let me do that. That's how triggered he is, because he's fundamentalist zealot with his fear belief. It's okay. My audience will enjoy this for as long as you let it take, Dawn. Indefinitely, it seems. So, position 1 that you hold is that they rotate in opposite directions, akin to Rumpus's. Oh no, won't let me get to the end of a sentence now. Wow, really triggered. Won't even let me get to the end of the first sentence in this instance. Totally triggered, Fundy. So I'll try again.
Like you're a robot on a little
Eighth
loop.
time. I'll try for an 8th time.
you
See if
called me a
Dawn, the Fundy triggered zealot, will let me make this statement
again.
for an 8th time. So, in line with Rumpus's housekeeping question, that they are opposing
Number
each
3,
other, opposite
chance 3.
direction.
Chance 3 now starting. Go.
Dawn,
What's my position again, Nathan?
Yeah, you are basically triggered and talking over the top
What's
of
my
every
position-
single time
what's
I
my
try to
position
talk,
again,
Dawn.
Nathan?
It's amusing to the audience just how triggered globe believers get
you
when
gonna
their
give it a
opposing
third
positions
attempt?
are highlighted to them.
Or not?
I don't know, Dawn. I don't know why you're so triggered and
Third
won't.
time lucky. Third time the charm.
Dawn,
Can you
Dawn,
not
this is
lie?
sad
time.
as shit.
I'm trying to.
It is
This
sad,
will be the
Dawn.
9th attempt. I'm going to try for a 9th time.
Okay.
So given that the
third attempt,
housekeeping
go.
question on the table from Rumpus is in regards to opposing star rotation, a position that you made clear you hold earlier with the word apparent inserted, just for clarity, see if you lie. Just to see if you lie. Do you see if you lie? Do you concede that earlier? Oh, he won't even let me get the repetition of his position to him. Yeah, that's how triggered he is. Fundy zealot with the globe belief being smashed into opposing positions held simultaneously means that he must rumpus me. So from this point on, I'm going to highlight to the audience that I have no choice but to shut down Dawn's line from this point on when he talks over me. Now, I can be called unreasonable, but he literally has, this is now the 10th time he has obfuscated my summary of his 2 contradictory positions.
Because you got it wrong. You lied twice. So obviously I'm going to shut those 2 down, aren't I? But on the 3rd chance, you're fumbling here. I'm waiting to see if you
Explain
lie.
how it's a lie.
Why should he get to obfuscate me summarising his position? I haven't got to do it once. I've made 10 attempts. But yet he should get a clear line to tell me and my audience how I'm lying about this. No, it's been recorded, Anthony. We got it really... You and Chocolate made the points really concisely. Chocolate made him concede all travelling in the same direction. You got him to concede travelling in opposite directions. You are the people that are now validating his lie that he's making, but he's saying I'm lying, and what, we're going to give him clear airwaves to tell my audience that I'm lying about his position when it's been recorded. He just won't let me summarise it. I'm about to make the 10th attempt to summarise his position that we all know is the case. It's been recorded. He just won't let me. So I'm going to try for a 10th time. Try for a 10th time.
Eleanor, it's being recorded.
I've got 2 words before Dawn interrupted. I'll try an 11th time. See if Dawn can let me summarise his opposing positions that he holds that have been conceded by him as a result of Chocolate and Sleeping Warrior taking him through the steps of the position he holds. I'm going to summarise them if it takes 50 attempts.
Me through the steps of the position I hold.
Yeah, we know your position. It's been dedicated to where we're recording, Dawn. You can be a liar if you want to. That just makes you scum. You must be disgusted when you leave these shows in your own behaviour.
I haven't lied yet today.
Well, feel free to let me make this 11th attempt to summarise your position.
No, because you lied all the other 10 times.
No, I haven't lied. Once. I haven't actually been given an opportunity to make the summary once in 11 attempts.
Because you're dishonest and you lie every time you do it.
You just keep saying I'm a liar over the top of me, ladies and gentlemen of the audience. So now I will summarise his position whether he likes it or not with his line closed so he can't interrupt me. Unreasonable after 11 attempts? I think not. Globehead mute button is what's happened 11 times while I summarise that he thinks that the stars both rotate in the same direction in northern and southern hemisphere, or hemisphere, whatever your poison. He also thinks they rotate in opposite directions, as clarified by Chocolate Sane and Sleeping Warrior. Those two things are incompatible. A law of non-contradiction violation. Not possible in any way, shape or form. Contrary. And you hold them together in your mind because you are cognitively dissonant.
Tell them my proper position.
Didn't listen to a word. Talked the entire time, just for the audience's benefit.
Nathan, ask him to contrast how you've got it wrong. I want to hear what he says.
It's not even wrong, Riley. It's just a lie. He's just misrepresenting liar.
So what is your position on? Do all the stars rise due east and set due west? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Chocolate, ask him your question.
Well, it was the other way around. Actually, you asked him to concede that they were rotating in opposite directions.
Oh, right. Okay. So do you still think that they rotate in opposite directions?
Then you guys, you're all mixed up because you're trying to...
No, we're not. You believe they have an opposite direction rotation and the same direction. That's what you believe. That's two contrasting opposite positions that you hold and has been dedicated to tape. The fact that the person who summarised one of those positions was the wrong person doesn't in any way change the point that was being summarised either.
It shouldn't have no meaning.
He didn't listen to a word of that either. So each time he's now obfuscating every single point that everybody says, I've got no choice to close down his line so that we can be heard, because the globe head mute button's being used so often that I have to close down his line, like now. Like, I'm not getting an opportunity to actually make my point heard because the globe head mute button's being used to obfuscate the fact that we have a cognitively dissonant globe head on the panel who simultaneously holds two positions at the same time.
No, it's not.
Mutually exclusive positions at that.
Mutually exclusive, correct. They can't simultaneously be in effect at the same time. It's not possible. It's a violation of the law of non-contradiction.
Then you're lying again. You're lying again.
That's all you've got. Laughing and telling me I'm lying. I'm not.
How's he lying, Don?
Lying, or you are honestly like suffering brain damage from something. I don't.
Don, did I not ask you if all the celestial bodies rise in the east and set in the west?
Hey, Don, do you know the width of the
No, shut up.
Star Trail?
Shut up.
So like at what north?
Answer the question. No, shut up, Zanuck.
He's here to bail him out. That's what Zanuck's here for.
He is bailing him out.
Shut him up.
Chocolate, repeat your question, Chocolate.
Okay.
Don, do all the celestial bodies rise in the east and set in the west?
Don later.
Yes, I already said yes to that.
Right.
You're like,
why do you think that they're rotating opposite directions then on the flat plane?
Said they appear to in two rotational directions.
Right, those two positions are opposite of one another. I'm not lying. That's what you've just said. He's now
They
talking
are
over the top of me.
opposite.
Those two positions are contradicting one another. That's what I've said and summarised or tried to 11 times without you letting me. I'm not lying. You've just summarised it yourself.
So, Don, when you say they appear to, does that mean that they're actually doing that?
Oh, geez, that's a weird question. Quite meta.
Mumbling fundy.
You're taking Nathan and Riley off track asking that type of question.
No.
Why is it a weird question?
The next question is, why do they appear to be rotating in the opposite direction? And that's because the observer's changed his orientation from looking north to looking south, or the other way around.
Or you could just look east and see both of them rotate. both
Yeah, but
directions.
your claim
But
is they're
Don, what I'm trying to get to, Don, is the fact that you say they appear to look like they're going in the
starting to
opposite
think you
direction
guys
means
might
that
be
they
retarded,
don't.
and I might.
I'm going to
They
have to
just
close this
appear
line
to,
again, Chocolate.
right?
He won't let you make any sort of summary. He must interrupt. So, for the audience's benefit, again, I have no choice but to stop Dawn from dominating every word that's being said here with his words repeated at nausea over the top of you. So, make another attempt. I'll open Dawn's line because he's incapable of shutting up while you speak when you're finished. Thank you.
Yes. So, Don, the first question I asked you was, do all the celestial bodies rise in the east and set in the west? You said yes. Then Riley asked you, why do they appear to go the opposite direction? Right?
Yeah,
Now,
I have
the
got
thing
answers
is,
for
you
that.
say they
If you want to know,
appear
I believe.
to go in the opposite direction. So, the fact that you say they appear to, does that mean that they're actually moving in the opposite direction?
When I say opposite direction, I'm not talking opposite to the east and west that we just talked about. I'm talking about opposite rotational directions above you.
Yeah, but why is it though, Dawn?
In case you were confused on that.
We're not.
Why
None
do
of us
they
are
appear to
confused.
be in opposite directions, Dawn? Come on, what's the answer?
Well, I'll tell you my belief. It's because we're on a sphere rotating on an axis in the middle of
No,
them.
it's because the observer's changed his orientation from looking north to south.
No. Let's talk about just looking east and watching two apparent rotational directions in the sky.
You don't.
They don't go in opposite directions, Dawn.
Let me just say it
They
one more
all
time.
rise
please.
in the east
You
and
said it.
north.
I want to say it again. Dawn, I'll just say it again while you talk all over it. He's wrong, ladies and gentlemen, and he won't accept it. He's going to kick and scream. They don't when looking east, Dawn.
You're a liar, that's
They
all. That's all,
don't
Nathan.
rotate in
I'm
opposite
taking time out of
directions,
my
Dawn.
day.
Yeah?
I stopped
Is
the
it coming
mysticism
through, or are you
documentary
rumpusing the...
just to come in.
He is. Just for the audience then, unfortunately, Dawn doesn't want to be educated where he's wrong. They don't rotate in opposite directions, Dawn.
Opposite rotational directions in the
Yeah, they don't. I know you don't want to listen to it being said 50 times and you'll talk over it every time. They don't.
They appear to, though, right?
No, they don't.
You're saying they don't appear
Come on,
to go in
Dawn.
opposite
No,
rotational
Dawn, you stupid fundy zealot moron. Do you get it? Are you listening? Are you really so stupid as to talk over the top of this 50 more times? Your clear, demonstrated ignorance getting the better of you again.
Recorded, everyone, remember.
Yeah, recorded. Your fundy zealotry where you won't accept a single thing we say and claim we're lying when we represent your position, or try to 13 or 14 times.
Should we talk about some of your positions, Nathan? And I can.
Oh, right. So it's the end of you getting smashed, your position's being wronged. Now it's talk about me. No, what about a concession? What about you having some humility? What about you admitting you're wrong? What about you apologising for you saying I'm a liar this entire time? What about apologies for the diagnoses you've made over the last 2 days? What about your disgusting behaviour, Dawn? What about that?
I'm adding to that diagnosis now. Fuck that. I'm not apologising for that. I'm adding to it.
Adding to what? Your medical diagnosis of me, you scumbag, piece of shit, fraud. So what? Should I now report you as impersonating a doctor? I'm being serious, right? This is being recorded. Are you actually going to diagnose me on a recording? Because if you are, I might be tempted to take legal action against you, because it's getting to the point of not only is it being disgusting, it's borderline illegal. You think this is funny, don't you, Dawn? I'm so glad I'm recording this because I'm expecting a response to what you say next.
Glad you're recording this.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm so glad.
You're going to diagnose me again? Let's see how this goes. Said you're going to add to the diagnosis you've already given.
Yeah, I'll tell you next time what I've added to the narcissism diagnosis, okay? I'll tell you all your audience as well.
Well, Don, I guess you didn't mean it.
Oh, tenth
or
man.
you're very
Hold on,
disingenuous
10th man.
when you said the only
10th man.
2 points.
Go ahead, Dawn. Mike's all yours.
So, let me just clarify your position,
No,
Nathan, for the
no, Dawn.
audience.
No, I don't want to clarify any positions of mine. I want to understand your disgusting behaviour over the last 2
He
days.
just rumpusted me and talked over the point again, so I'm going to have
No, you haven't made any points here, Dawn. We've just seen a complete demonstration of ignorance. No points have been made by you. None. But what you have done is smeared me, and your behaviour towards me is vile and disgusting. I want to know why.
So your position is you don't think you're a narcissist, just for the audience.
I went over this with you the other day, that if you were to assess yourself in that regard, it would automatically mean you're not. I explained this, we've already covered this, this is a red herring. I'm asking you about your behaviour, demonstrated and recorded over the last couple of days. It's all aimed at me, it's all disgusting.
Some of it at Riley and a few of the other one, all your little crew.
No, another red herring.
Especially
I'm
you,
asking you to self-assess. Maybe, it seems, I'm not going to diagnose anything here, but one of the traits would be an inability to diagnose oneself in this regard. That would be a trait of a narcissist, something that I'm quite capable of doing and have demonstrated and pointed out to you twice. But it seems that the self-introspection that you're failing to do right now when I ask you to, that would be a trait of narcissism. Not diagnosing you as such, I'm just pointing that out. Interesting, eh, Dawn? So are you going to introspectively assess your behaviour directed at me or not?
Yeah, I'm triggered by lying. You can look up
I haven't
the
been
term
lying.
for that.
I haven't been lying. You've been
I
asked
haven't
repeatedly by people
Googled
to
that
give
myself.
examples of where I have been, and you've been incapable of doing so. Yeah, that's one of the disgusting behaviours I'm asking you to justify.
Triggered by lying.
Yeah, that's incorrect. Again, second time I'll say it, ignored, probably hand waved and moved past. Also asked by Anthony, no response from you. That's one of the disgusting behaviours I'm asking you to justify. Nope, total silence.
I didn't even hear what you said, sorry.
It's one of the behaviours, one of those things, something you've levelled at me. I'm calling that a disgusting behaviour. And I'm asking you to justify that disgusting behaviour, as opposed to repeat again that I'm a liar, i.e. engage in the disgusting behaviour and talk over me while I point out how disgusting you fundy globeheads are and the levels that you'll sink to. That's what I'm asking you.
It's a legit point, Dawn. Why do you think he's a liar?
Because he lies. So
That's
it's not
just
really
a
thought,
repetition
it's
of the
knowledge.
claim, not a justification or an example or a qualification
knowledge,
of that
it's
disgusting
not thought.
behaviour
It's
as
not
I'm
like
coining
a
it.
theory.
Yeah, just a constant smearing with the same accusation with absolutely no baseless assertion. That's all it is. Nothing to
The
back
reason
it.
I come on and call you names and diagnose you is because nobody else does. Someone's got to.
Someone's got to diagnose people. Yeah, doctors.
Oh, you. Someone's
No,
got to
doctors.
tell you
Yeah, if I
you're-
want diagnoses, I will go to a doctor, not to a fundy religious zealot who's constantly calling me a liar without any actual demonstrations of thereof. No, I won't come to you for diagnosis. You are a certified fucktard. I wouldn't let you diagnose a fault with a wonky table.
You did though, dude. You recorded it and uploaded it to the YouTube. So
What, I dedicated to air your disgusting behaviour towards me? Yeah, you're right.
you wouldn't let me diagnose you. But
Yeah, I also listened to you tell me that if I was doing this in front of you, which I absolutely would, if we were in person and I was having this argument, I'd have it with exactly the same venom, the same tongue, the same language. You asserted that in losing that argument face to face, you would physically assault me. That's what you also declared. You also declared that you would egg my house because I'm a bully.
the violent bit was a bit far. I apologise for that, Nathan. But if you did speak to me like this in the street, I would get very angry. So that was
you would.
You know, that was what. That's how I justify it.
Speak to you like what? What, like calling you a liar? Like diagnosing you medically? What, that sort of talking to
It's
you?
loud
you mean?
narcissism because it's
Or pulling apart your two positions that you wouldn't let me summarise 13 times. What, that sort of talk? You talking over the top of me in person and me trying to justify things that you said only moments earlier and you not letting me. That sort of behaviour. You'd get angry at that, would you? Or would I get angry
Yeah,
at
if
that,
you
Dawn?
spoke to me like this
Or
in the
would it
street,
be offensive
I
to
would
me,
get angry,
the
dude.
person trying to
I'd
talk
push you
now?
in the road.
The person trying to talk now that you're talking over. Do you normally in
I don't
person with
mean that,
people,
though. Obviously, it's
when
just
you're
the
in
internet.
person, do you normally do things like this? When someone's trying to talk to you, you just start talking while they're mid-sentence. Is that something you do in person? I don't tend to do that in
I don't
person.
know. I don't speak to people like you in real life.
This is real life.
Are you not able to distinguish
this
between
is real
reality
life,
and
fucking
real?
hell.
John?
Fuck.
This is real life, Dawn. We are really
real
having
life,
this
it's
conversation right now with you behaving like a
Being diagnosed with
disgusting human being,
narcissism on the internet
me
by
trying to find
Dawn.
justification for that behaviour, and you continually interrupting and talking over me while I do so. Still no justification, just a repetition of you saying I'm a liar. No examples or demonstrations thereof. None. And then when I ask for extra clarity, all you call me is a fundy zealot, when all I've tried to do 13 times is accurately describe your two contrasting positions that you hold. That's all
Why
I've
do
done.
you
Not a
think I
liar.
call you a funny zealot? Why do you think I use that term and call you it so often?
I have no idea. It's incorrect. I'm not a fundamentalist in any way, shape, or
that's
form.
because that's the term you use and call other people so.
Oh, right. So because I use it, what, are you secretly obsessed with me and want to use my terminology and vernacular?
Maybe you need to be given your own medicine.
What? A demonstration of an obliteration of an argument I've made? Maybe I do. It's a shame that's not coming from you, Dawn. Using my words doesn't mean that you can hold the arguments I hold. That's a pathetic position to believe you can hold by simply using some of the words I use. Do you think that you can just throw a load of words into a bucket that I've used, pull them out in any random order, and suddenly you're going to be capable of having the arguments I have here? What am I talking about? Of course he does. He uses words he hasn't got the vaguest clue about all the time. We ask him to define them and he can't. After normally calling someone else a liar by using this word salad.
Is your wife and your daughter listening to this?
They're in the next room, waiting for this conversation to end.
That's fucked up if they are.
Why are you talking like that? Are your wife and daughter listening to this conversation? Answer, they're in the next room. That's fucked up. The reply.
It's fine.
What?
Don't
The
worry.
language you're fucking using on my fucking show while my wife and daughter potentially could hear this. Yeah, you fucking disgusting piece of shit. Yeah. What? That? They're listening to you act like a disgusting human being. My daughter potentially listening to you over and over again accuse me of lies without actually justifying it. If she'd listened to my side of the conversation, she'd have heard me 13 times trying to accurately describe your contrasting positions that are mutually exclusive. But you wouldn't let me.
I'm glad. Did she hear that? Did she hear that shit?
She wasn't here then. She came home and I pointed out to the audience that I'm waiting to round out. But you wouldn't let me. You wouldn't let me summarise the two positions you hold that are in opposition to each other. Mutually exclusive. All these different words have been used. But at no stage have you gone, yeah, you're right. You've tried desperately to point out that I hold two positions that are mutually exclusive. And I've been declaring them the whole time. But in so doing, I'm going to call you a liar. And diagnose you medically. That's what you're doing, Dawn, because you're a disgusting human being. Literally, you sick is coming up my throat as I talk to you.
You act like you don't know anything.
No,
but then
you
talk
sicken
like
me.
You know everything.
Physically, you sicken me, Dawn. That's what I'm trying to communicate to you.
Bad.
You're disgusting,
that's why
and you physically
I've made
sicken me.
sick come up. If that's true, that's well funny.
You think it's funny that you leave people feeling physically sickened by your behaviour? That's funny to you, is it? Clearly it is.
It's when a narcissist gets called a narcissist. That's
now
what
get more diagnoses.
Dawn, have you ever had any mental health training? I have, and I would. I mean,
I've
what I'm
observed
listening
Nathan for
to
2.5
is quite
years.
abhorrent.
You're not going to get to ask the
what I
full
would
question.
recommend is you maybe listen back to the last hour of this and take a bloody good look at yourself, lad. Your behaviour's been absolutely appalling. You to the point that actually it
What,
appears
calling
you're
Nathan
quite happy
names?
to
Calling Nathan
segregate
names?
people,
Saying he's
talking
a
to people online as if it's not natural human behaviour, and in some way that justifies the way you're treating other human beings. It's absolutely appalling what I've been listening to. Really bad, mate.
And with that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who've tuned into the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and Google Plus Hangouts on air. Not Hangouts on air, just Hangouts now, isn't it? Discontinued on air. Nevertheless, a massive thank you to all of you in the Google Plus Hangouts for making this debate possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!